Charlie Kirk. I guess he's like, I don't know. Charlie Kirk has just been like, all I know is that he's been constantly trying to get like Republicans voted in Arizona, and that hasn't been really going well for him. Because I noticed this as well with a lot of fucking conservatives. A lot of conservatives are trying to do their whole like college beat, like a return with a V to a certain extent, to try to maintain some kind of fucking relevance, mostly to varying degrees of success. So mostly not very successful. We all know that Ben Shapiro tried to bring that shit back, and we all know how the Daily Wire is doing. That shit's dying. But we got Charlie Kirk versus 400 Cambridge students and a professor. I have a feeling he didn't debate all 400 of them at a time, and it's just, we're doing a little bit of embellishment. But yeah, Charlie Kirk is a dumb fuck conservative who lies all the time, and also has a freakazoid smile. Like, bro has way too much gum being exposed in his fucking smile. It's really fucking uncanny valley type stuff. But let's see what we got here. Let's start.
Can we settle down, please? We're going to move on to our questions. Our first question is from Sinosha Zubair from Sydney, Sussex.
Uh-oh. We got a Muslim woman. Uh-oh. Oh, fuck. Oh, shit. It's time for Charlie's racism to be activated.
Remember, you have the right of response.
I have quite a simple question for you. Now, I know you've debated Dean Withers on Jubilee before. I was wondering why you now refuse to engage with further debate with him.
Wait, hold on. First of all, he's coming on my show this summer, and let me get this straight. I flew 5,000 miles across the world to have you ask why I'm not going to debate a left-wing YouTuber?
Well, I mean, he continuously tries to get your attention at your campus.
Right, yeah, again,
you just ignore him.
I've debated him twice in the last calendar year. He's coming on my...
Wait, hold on. I'm curious. Wait, yeah, because, like, again, Charlie Kirk, he runs TPUSA, which is supposed to be, like, a student organization. If I recall correctly, Dean Withers, who's, like, a liberal, like, debate bro type, whatever, he, like, showed up to one of Charlie Kirk's fucking events. Because, again, here's the fucking thing with all these, like, dumbass conservatives and why they debate college students. They have media training, so they know how to come off as good as possible within those debates. So they're never really honest debates. And of course, well, a fiery fucking college student might say something stupid or might not look perfectly, like, rhetorically accurate or clear because they're not as well media trained as, like, say, your Ben Shapiro's, Steven Crowder's, and Charlie Kirk's of the world. But they're, like, trying to bring it back, but it's not really working for them because very often the dumbass conservatives, they've been kind of getting owned. Uh-oh, the left is getting better at debate, and it's making conservatives very fucking nervous. But what? Let me see if I can find the clip. Dean Withers, Charlie Kirk, university debate. I know the dude fucking flew out and was just like, hey, I have a question for you, Charlie. What? And then, like, Charlie was just, like, not engaging, and he just, like, completely pussied out, basically. Right? Pretty clear example of has agreed to do a public sit-down one-on-one conversation. Yeah, this is, like, his fucking shtick, right? Where he basically, like, he has, like, a call show where, like, a bunch of people can just call in and he just, like, fucking, debates them or something. He, like, I don't know, he appeared in front of, like, Charlie Kirk one time.
Then debate me! Let me on the mic!
Oh,
it's a very pussy move on your part to keep avoiding Dean.
Then debate me!
People like
Let me on the mic! Let me on the mic!
Get Dean on the mic! That's the whole reason I came up here. It's a pussy move for you to keep avoiding him.
This was Dean's whole plan. I'm going to bring these people here. Woo!
We've been told by every single one of Kirk's staffers that he doesn't want to talk.
It's not a good look. It's not a good look, Charlie. Makes you look like a pussy. Pussy Kirk.
Yeah, I have some disagreeing questions. Do you think I could ask him?
Well, that's something you're going to have to talk to somebody else about.
The reason we weren't let in line is because we don't go to college. But apparently neither does a guy on the mic. We're in MAGA territory now. We need to be very respectful.
Hey, Charlie! Dean's here! Dean!
Oh,
come on!
You have a permit?
We should talk. trying to talk to Charlie Kirk, but it's not working. Do you think me and Kirk should have a conversation? 100%. You got to get me.
Damn, even all the MAGA turds agree. Because here's the thing, right? Like, you want to know the funniest part? I'm trying to remember who it was that completely pussied out of a conversation against a left-leaning person. It was, it was the fucking, oh no, Sam Cedar. What a fucking nightmare. You know, that was like the start of the fall of like Steven Crowder. And a bunch of Crowder fans, like, you know, when Ethan did the fucking do-si-do fucking fake out of Steven Crowder. And he was just like, oh, fuck, shit, no, wait. Sam Cedar will literally, like, rip me to fucking complete shreds. And he was trying to do, like, anything possible. And, like, do anything possible to weasel his way out of it. Including, like, weirdo fucking anti-Semitism. Yeah, that was Ethan who did that. And a bunch of Charlie Kirk fans were saying, like, well, damn, I wanted to see him debate. Like, what's going on? He calls himself, like, this great fucking debater and stuff. And didn't want to fucking debate. Like, what's going on? And then, you know, the stuff with the wife came out, and yeah, that was the beginning of the end of Steven Crowder.
Me up there, man.
You may be purposely ignoring you.
This has proven to be very difficult.
I think that we are in the free marketplace of ideas. Anyone should be able to come up here and challenge and debate you. If you're really for that, as you say you would allow someone to come up here and debate you on that.
Here's the thing. Dean has made it pretty clear that it's all MAGA people out there. But, like, for some reason, like, Charlie doesn't want to do the debate with the liberal who probably disagree with him because he just wants a fucking hug box. That's it. And he only wants to debate people who have no media experience because he knows that with his media training and experience, he can make them look like fucking idiots. Crazy. Who would have thought?
My show this summer, let me be clear, I came to Cambridge to have you ask me that.
Yeah, what's wrong with that?
I mean, you talk about freedom. I'm just using my freedom of speech to ask you a simple question. You seem to be dodging it for some reason.
No, I've debated him twice in the last year, and he's coming on this summer for a long-form discussion. But is this what I can expect?
I don't know, buddy. That seemed like a pretty informal discussion, and you seem to be constantly dodging him while you're doing your little fucking campus show fucking key jingling, you know? Like, yeah, dude, totally. Yeah, it says fucking copium, bro.
Yeah, he's making videos about you avoiding him on your campus debates.
Right, so let me tell you how this works. I do a campus event, like a Texas A&M University. I rent it out. I'm there for 3 hours. He shows up demanding to come up to the mic immediately, cutting in line of other students. It's not Joe Biden's America anymore where you can just cut in line and get whatever you want.
What are you fucking talking about, Charlie? Bro, you just wanted to have your fucking hug box, bro. You fucking pussied out. You pussied out. People wanted to see the debate. What's wrong, Charlie? You pussied out. All these motherfuckers were just like, yeah, I think, you know, Charlie should talk. It's a free marketplace of ideas. You know, people should challenge you. I don't think Charlie cares about the First Amendment, guys.
So therefore, I say, excuse me, Dean, we'll talk another time. He makes this YouTube video as if I'm scared to debate him, even though I debated him twice in the last year. Does that sufficiently answer your question?
Yes, it does.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Go. Sir, Charlie's coping.
Thank you for coming, Charlie. My question to you, I mean, I'm a medical student, and so I'm going to throw out the big A word. I know you get asked about it a lot, but I want to hear from you what your opinion is on abortion.
Life begins at conception.
Fuck. I hate abortion debates, bro. Abortion debates are such, like, complete fucking papega fucking dog shit. Like, oh yeah, like, what do you think of, bibbly bobbly doobly dobbly? Well, you know, it begins, like, over here. It's like, I don't know, dude. Like, do we need to pull... We'll do the fucking meme. What's the name of that one fucking comedian, right, who made Charlie Kirk look like a complete moron, right? It's Ben something. Charlie Kirk, dolphin fetus. Unfortunately, that guy was a fucking complete Zionist, but, you know. Ben Glebe.
Conservatives like...
Uh-huh. I just want the clip, bro.
This is a human being.
Without a doubt.
Without a doubt?
Yes.
This is a dolphin fetus.
So...
Because Charlie Kirk was making the whole argument that, of course, like, every fucking fetus is totally a fucking human. You can just tell at conception. And Ben Glebe immediately fucking catches him saying, like, bro, you can't tell fucking shit from based off of what a fucking fetus looks like. This is a fetus of fucking anything, but you don't know.
Without a doubt, a dolphin fetus is a human being. This is a human fetus. Look how similar they look, but quite...
concerned Charlie Kirk is. Poor Bubby.
Different. Dolphin. You just confirmed that a dolphin... In life, do you confuse dolphins for human babies often?
That's still good. That's still fucking good, dude. That's a good one. Because, you know, conservatives, they can always tell, right?
About abortion specifically. Why do you think abortion's wrong specifically?
Well, you agree murder is wrong.
I agree. Okay, so this is where we get to the question, right? Because what is it about murder you say is wrong? Like, why is murder wrong?
Well, because it's a human being, not just because it has consciousness or because it's of a certain age, because it's a human.
What is it that gives...
Fetuses are not humans. They're not human beings. They are tiny little parasites that attach to the sort of womb or like life support system that is the mother. Period. End of story. It's not a human being. They do not possess consciousness. They do not possess free will or anything. All they do is just sit there, get nutrients, grow, and eventually become a fucking baby. So, like, whatever.
Gives human being this moral worth?
Not its consciousness necessarily.
I didn't say it's consciousness.
I know. I can imagine it because it is a human being because it has a soul.
And what is this soul? Where does this come from?
Bro, this isn't fucking Warhammer 40k. What the fuck is this? Yeah, fucking the soul of the baby is going to be eaten up by fucking Nurgle or whatever the fuck if it gets aborted or some shit. Or maybe Zinch decided to play a trick on the fucking mother's mind in order to get that fetus's fucking soul. Yeah, okay, Charlie. It's silly.
This idea that it's...
Exactly. I mean, again, the Greeks postulated that it is the entirety of your being. Yeah, you guys can laugh. I mean, it's true. I mean, every civilization has had a different belief, but agreed upon ethical monotheism, which is the creed of the West and what the birth certificate of my country articulates, is that every human being is more than just matter, it's more than just a clump of cells, but it also has an invisible element to you that will live beyond you.
Fine, so, I mean...
I don't know, Charlie Kirk. You seem to confuse dolphins and humans, so I don't know. Like, you seem to have some fucking problems with that one there, buddy.
Can you say that comes from the Bible, or where else do you get that from?
Ethical monotheism, which is the creed of the West. And again, the Declaration of Independence mentions God 4 times. The founders were explicitly believed, not in a secular morality, but a divinely given one, of at least this idea that there is a God.
That is a fucking lie. What are you talking about? No, they believed in secularism. Quite literally, in the First Amendment of the fucking Constitution, it talks about how there has to be a fucking separation of church and state. Something which conservatives love to erode away constantly. Yeah, creed of the West. It's all like some stupid like attempt to bring in religiosity or wherever like wherever the fuck like bullshit like religiosity bullshit. Wherever it's just like not appropriate. Oh, monotheism did start in Persia, huh? Didn't it? What, like with Zoroastrianism, right? Right, Boy Meets Mini? If I'm recalling my ancient religions correctly, the Persian Empire practiced Zoroastrianism throughout the entirety of the empire. So, like, I don't know. I guess, like, does Charlie Kirk claim ideas from Persia? I don't know.
And you are not him. And let me ask you, what is the first stage of human development?
So I mean, this is the thing, right? We can take it from the sperm being generated in the father and the oocyte being generated in the mother, right? They fuse at birth, conception, sorry. The only thing that happens at conception is these 2 cells fuse.
No, DNA is created.
DNA is not created.
DNA, no, that's not true. The DNA coding at the zygote. Hold on, time out.
Wait, he's trying to say that no DNA is created at conception to a fucking medical... okay, dude.
Zygote have a unique marker.
Charlie,
does a zygote have a unique marker?
You have to let me speak. You have to
answer it, yes or no. Does a zygote have a unique marker?
Find a unique marker.
Meaning, can you differentiate the DNA coding between the mother and the zygote if you examine it under a deoxyribonucleic acid analysis? Can you?
Only purely because the addition comes from the father.
Oh, so it is something different.
Charlie, DNA is not created. DNA is not created. You have the father has his own.
Keep in mind, again, medical fucking student that he's currently debating about this shit. Charlie is going to be completely out of his fucking depth, and he's probably going to try to interrupt this kid constantly to make sure that he can't fucking speak to get his fucking actual medical facts out. Because again, for Charlie, he doesn't give a fuck about any medical basis of abortion or anything. It's all about religious morality for him.
Genome. The mother has her own genome. They fuse. This is why you have the same characteristics, similar ones to your mother, similar ones to your father. That's why you have similar characteristics to your siblings. DNA is not created, right? So when you ask me, where does a human being come from? I can say to you, it starts at conception, but all conception is these 2 cells joining, right? But these 2 cells were created, the mother cells were created long before, they were created when she was a fetus. So there's none of this DNA being produced, right? So we can't establish, the only thing that happens at conception is these two cells fuse. Now this idea that means that for some reason, suddenly that moral worth comes in, but it wasn't there before when you had these 2 cells who had half the DNA, but suddenly there's
correct, yes, something magical happens at that.
It's not magical, Charlie, we know about this.
Hold on.
Charlie.
Dude, Massa, like what? Does he think like every time the fucking cells fuse or something, it's like Jesus being born from the Virgin Mary? Does like the Holy Spirit, like, okay, listen, anytime a fucking, I don't know, like rape happens in like sub-Saharan Africa because of like dumbass fucking warlords, the Holy Spirit all of a sudden teleports in when the fucking sperm merges with the fucking egg, goes like or some shit, and it creates a fucking baby, or it creates the fucking zygote or some shit. That's how it works in Charlie's mind or something. It's magic, guys. Woo!
I'm out. Hold on.
I promise you, I'm not trying to score points. I'm not trying to score points on you. This is
We call it the miracle of life for a reason. We've not been able to yet replicate human life development outside of the womb.
We call it the miracle of life because, yes, it's something beautiful, the ability to form a new...
That's not true, is it? Right? What? That's not true. We have been able to... Have we been able to... We've been able to create life outside of the womb through artificial wombs. Artificial wombs exist, right, P? Aren't there, like, sheep or other animals that have been created through artificial wombs from the, like, the gathering of, like, different eggs of mammals with sperm of mammals? That's just not true. Yeah, not humans, but yeah, sheep. Yeah, it was sheep. So that's not true. Life has been created outside of the womb. Not with humans. Now, obviously, Charlie would be like, well, yeah, obviously with, like, other animals and stuff. It's like, then what you're saying is not perfect. Now, obviously, I'm just doing the, like, stupid semantics bullshit here. Like, obviously, but, like, you know. Gotta be accurate with what you're saying, Charlie.
Magical. It's not... You say magical as in, oh, it's beautiful, it's an incredible thing that happens, of course. But it's not incredible in the sense we don't know what's going on. There's no new DNA coming out of nowhere.
Hold on, but time out. Isn't there a separate DNA, though, than the mother? Like,
yes, from the father.
Okay, yes, but it's not the father's DNA either. A new coding is created.
Charlie,
you are a blend of the two. And so when did your life begin?
Okay, so
when did your life begin?
I mean, again, this comes from what you define as where life starts. You can say life starts at conception, but I'm telling you, I believe that's just an arbitrary point, right? That's just the moment these two cells fuse. Now, you say about this mother thing. So the way DNA is arranged in a cell is it's arranged in chromosomes. Chromosomes are paired up, so you have one from the mother, one from the father, typically.
Totally frank.
Right?
Chromosomes?
You can take those maternal chromosomes out, and you can find that this is who the person's mother is, and you can do the same with the father. Now, the reason you are different to your mother and father is because some of those chromosomes express genes that are different from each other, and so those genes interact, and that's what gives rise to you, right? But there's no space for any kind of moral framework to come into that until you consider that a human being is capable of consciousness and of suffering. But if you take that out of the equation, the fact that these two DNA...
I'm sorry, but like, listen, what this dude is saying is, broadly speaking, correct, but Charlie Kirk doesn't really give a fuck about any of this because, you know, he has to push his, like, stupid religious fundamentalist, like, bullshit agenda onto other people because, I don't know, again, whenever it comes to fucking abortion debates and shit like this, it's all about underscoring one point in particular. I don't give two flying fucks about any of this fucking whiff-waffly bullshit about when life is fucking conceived. The basis of the argument is this. Pretty fucking simple. The only reason why conservatives are fucking anti-abortion, well, it's not rooted in great replacement theory. No, that has a part in it, Boy Meets Mini. Part of it is great replacement. It's more so about maintenance of hierarchy and control. Conservatives, all they want, broadly speaking, is for women to be stuck in the fucking house, being broodmares, producing children for, well, American men, broadly speaking. Part of it is rooted in the Great Replacement theory, but more importantly, conservatives are upset about the fact that women have more say within the workplace, within financial decisions, within being able to purchase homes, within being able to live themselves, of not being able to need no more man and stuff like that. So people like Charlie are upset about the fact that that hierarchical distinction is being challenged and potentially uprooted. That is why a lot of people like Charlie Kirk and all the fucking evangelical dumbfucks that initially made this a big issue to begin with within America, and specifically, and it's like, you know, broadly speaking, through cultural osmosis, it's become an issue kind of in other places. Like, you can immediately talk about, like, Canada. It gets kind of mentioned up here, but, like, not really. Like, abortion's not as big of, like, a fucking thing up here as in comparison to, like, America, where it's like, a fucking constant fucking battle for whatever fucking reason. But also, just like, you know, in France, not a battle there anymore. Abortion has been fucking amended into the Constitution of France. Guess what? That shit's fucking fully fucking protected. You want to get an abortion in France? Fucking YOLO swag 420. Just go do it. Go do it. Who the hell cares? Don't have to talk about all this like conception at life fucking bullshit that doesn't ultimately fucking matter. Again, for a lot of conservatives, overall, abortion is about maintenance of hierarchy and control over women, with the men overall being the ones on top over women. That is the point.
You know, whatever they're called, molecules, right? These two DNA molecules are fusing. That does not suddenly flip a switch that attributes moral worth to that individual.
I mean, that's true.
I'm just saying, I'm not trying to score points.
Then, by what moral standard do you believe that?
I believe that if an individual is capable of suffering, then it's wrong.
In India, abortion is legal, but you can't do it after determining gender. Femme-feticide is a huge issue there. Wasn't it also a big issue under China's one-child policy, I think? It was also a big issue there, if I recall correctly. We all know, with like Elon Musk, for example, a lot of the fetuses that he gets impregnated, because I don't think he's ever had fucking sex before, ever in his life. All of his fucking children were born through IVF, specifically. And all of them are boys. Why is that? Because, again, he wants to, like, have a little clone legion of himself. That's, like, the point, obviously. Unfortunately, I think most of Elon's children probably fucking hate his guts, because he's, like, a deadbeat. So, whatever. Except for the one that he keeps around as, like, a little shield or whatever. But, you know. Yeah, Vivian. Yeah, it's, Queen Vivian. She's based.
Now, can I explain my opinion on abortion, just so you can understand? I would agree, as many reasonable people would, that at 9 months, it's unreasonable to expect someone to get an abortion, right? Unless you have some extreme circumstances. But for an elective abortion seems a bit radical to me. But it also seems radical to say that a woman who has just, the cells have just fused, to deny her of an abortion also seems wrong to me. Because that zygote is not capable of suffering, as far as we know.
So by what moral standard? Is that just your opinion? Where did you get that moral standard from?
Because suffering is a bad thing. We all know suffering is a bad thing. That's an objective fact, right?
Well, okay, so you do believe in objective morality.
I believe that suffering is an objectively negative
So if you can't feel it, is it okay?
What do you mean if you can't?
You can't feel the pain, is it okay to inflict the pain?
In the sense that if no one's suffering from it, if you have a scenario where nobody is suffering from something, then yes, of course. There's no a moral, something is only a moral question.
I wonder what fucking Charlie Kirk would think of masochists, right? They like suffering. It gets them pleasure from it. You know? I wonder what Charlie Kirk would think of that. I wonder.
It affects someone's well-being.
So let me just make sure I understand this correctly. That if it doesn't affect their well-being, so dementia patients that don't know who they are or where they're from, can we execute dementia patients because they're confused about their well-being?
Can you imagine a scenario?
Or Alzheimer's patients. Alzheimer's patients don't really know much about anything. Can we schedule them for execution?
Why is he fucking moving the fucking goalposts here or some shit? That's really fucking weird. Like, no? That's not fucking related at all. What the fuck are you doing here, Charlie? What? It's like, yeah, we got to execute the Alzheimer's and dementia. Well, I mean, for the world that Charlie Kirk is overall pushing for, he would probably actually be okay with that because those two particular groups of people don't fucking contribute to the well-being of the state. But, you know, whatever. He's trying to do, like, the whole fucking meme of, like, you know, since Alzheimer's patients and fucking dementia patients can't understand what suffering is, because their brain isn't fucking working, therefore it's okay to fucking execute them. It's just like, that's not exactly how that works. If you're like murdering a fucking dementia patient or whatever, you're killing them, they can understand what pain is still. They can probably still understand like what death probably is. So that would be a bad thing. This is like fucking false equivalence. He's trying to move the fucking goalpost because he can't do the whole fucking morality argument with fetuses. Like, that's it. Also, what's up, Reza?
Because they can't technically suffer.
No respond. So, can you imagine a scenario where we lived in a society where we killed...
Wait, why was there a cut there? This is why I wanted to find a different version that wasn't just the Charlie Kirk version, because there was a little bit of a cut there. What? No answer. What was that all about? It's a little weird.
People, when they suffer from dementia, were incapable of suffering, and we killed them, right? It's not a scenario that involves an absence of suffering. There's still suffering involved. Imagine you grow up thinking, my dad could be killed at any moment because he's going to get dementia. Imagine living your life thinking, I could get dementia and suddenly I'd be killed by my state.
Imagine a world where you slaughter 1 million babies every year in America.
Charlie, it's not slaughter. That's the problem.
Hold on. It's a forcible removal from the umbilical cord of another human life. Again, We have clarity but not agreement. Biologically, you know that your entire coding began at conception. Your coding,
No, that's
your
what
uniqueness.
I'm denying. I disagree with that.
Okay, when those two cells fused together, to use your terminology,
Yes.
that is where the process of
scientifically accepted terminology.
In the interest of time, can we bring this question to a
the
close?
process of human development objectively begins at that moment. Therefore, those human beings are deserving of human rights. We keep going, or do you want to?
No, thank you. Yeah, you can finish.
The process of development.
Yeah, it's just not true. Like, the fetuses aren't fucking humans. I don't know, copacetive mold. I'm trying to find the version of the debate. Oh, here we go. Here's a version of the debate that probably won't get cut out by fucking Charlie Kirk. I found the version from Cambridge itself. That's what I was fucking looking for in particular. Lovely, fantastic. We're not gonna do the Q&A section. I don't give a fuck about the Q&A bit. But to be honest, I only care about the fucking debate. Here we go. Because that cut there, that was a little bit of a weird cut. I don't know what that cut was about. Let's just try to get back to where we were. There we go.
I mean, it's true. I mean, every civilization has had a different belief, but agreed upon ethical monotheism, which is the creed of the West and what the birth certificate.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah, that's a good point, Boy Meets Mini. Yeah, Charlie is okay with dropping bombs on pregnant mothers. That's true. Look at Gaza, right?
But it wasn't there before when you had these two cells who had half the DNA, but suddenly there's
Correct. Yes, something magical happens at that.
It's not magical, Charlie. We know about it.
Well, hold on.
Charlie.
Time out. Hold on.
I promise you, I'm not trying to score points. I'm not trying to score points on you. This is
we call it the miracle of life for a reason. We've not been able to yet replicate human life development outside of the womb.
We call it the miracle of life because yes, it's something beautiful. The ability to form a new.
Magical.
It's not. You say magical is it? Oh, it's beautiful. It's an incredible thing that happens. I mean, I'm just saying. I'm not trying to score points.
By what moral standard do you believe that?
I believe that if an individual is capable of suffering, then it's wrong. Now, can I explain my opinion on abortion, just so you can understand? I would agree, as many reasonable people would, that at 9 months, it's unreasonable to expect someone to get an abortion, right? Unless you have some extreme circumstances. But for an elective abortion seems a bit radical to me. But it also seems radical to say that a woman who has just, the cells have just fused, to deny her of an abortion also seems wrong to me. Because that zygote is not capable of suffering, as far as we know.
So by what moral standard? Is that just your opinion? Where did you get that moral standard from?
Because suffering is a bad thing. We all know suffering is a bad thing. That's an objective fact, right?
Hold on. So you do believe in objective morality?
I believe that suffering is an objectively negative.
So if you can't feel it, is it okay?
What do you mean if you can't?
You can't feel the pain, is it okay to inflict the pain?
In the sense that if no one's suffering from it, if you have a scenario where nobody is suffering from something, then yes, of course. There's no something is only a moral question if it affects someone's well-being.
So let me just make sure I understand this correctly. That if it doesn't affect their well-being, so dementia patients that don't know who they are or where they're from, can we execute dementia patients because they're confused about their well-being?
I don't know. Can we execute fucking pregnant mothers in Gaza with like bombs because of like whatever like schizophrenic fucking evangelical conspiracy theories Charlie Kirk probably prescribes in? Charlie Kirk is a fucking Zionist, so you know. Hey, Charlie, I thought we were like operating based off of objective morality here or something. It's a little weird. I don't know.
Can you imagine a scenario?
Or Alzheimer's patients. Alzheimer's patients don't really know much about anything. Can we schedule them for execution because they can't technically suffer?
No, respond. So can you imagine a scenario where we...
Okay, Cambridge also does the exact same cut. So that wasn't just a Charlie Kirk thing. Just to make sure.
In a society where we killed people when they suffered from dementia, were incapable of suffering, and we killed them, right? It's not a scenario that involves an absence of suffering. There's still suffering involved. Imagine you grow up thinking, my dad could be killed at any moment because he's going to get dementia. Imagine living your life thinking, I could get dementia and suddenly I'd be killed by my state.
Imagine a world where you slaughter 1 million babies every year in America.
Charlie, it's not slaughter. That's the problem.
Hold on. It's a forcible removal from the umbilical cord of another human life. Again, we have clarity but not agreement. Biologically, you know that your entire coding began at conception. Your coding.
No, that's
or uniqueness.
That's denying. I disagree with that.
Okay, when those two cells fuse.
Okay, because here's the fucking thing with all this bullshit, this fusing fucking code bullshit. It's all a distraction. None of this fucking shit matters. It's stupid. It's all about like, does a fucking fetus or a zygote or whatever the fuck, can it feel pain? Does it have consciousness? Does it have a will? Can it act on its own? Can it behave on its own? No. It's purely reliant on the fucking mother to survive. So if the mother doesn't want to fucking have it because, I don't know, it's a product of fucking rape or incest, that's her fucking decision. It doesn't get any fucking more complicated than that. But again, the basis of all of this, for conservatives in particular, maintenance of hierarchy and control. Never fucking forget that.
used together to use your terminology. Yes. That is where the process of human
accepted terminology.
In the interest of time, can we bring this question to a
the
close?
process of human development objectively begins at that moment. Therefore, those human beings are deserving of human rights. We keep going, or do you want to?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, you can finish.
The process of development begins from the moment the sperm is being generated in the father, the moment the eggs are being generated in the mother. To say that suddenly the moral worth switches on when they fuse doesn't make any sense. That's just a point.
It makes perfect sense, because that is when your journey as a human being. When the sperm and egg were separate, you were not yet a fused human being. You were not created uniquely.
DNA existed. DNA existed. I thought.
Well, no, the parts of your DNA existed. Your DNA did not exist. It's like saying that we have a full car just because we have all the parts. It was not yet put together until conception happens and the zygote was formed. Thank you. I think we have to move on to the next question.
Why is he trying to compare this to like a fucking car? What the fuck are you talking about? What? A human has to objectively sort of like think about the design of the fucking car. A fucking goddamn fetus is produced as a biological process. It's not the fucking same shit, Charlie. I don't know. Stupid.
Thank you.
That was a racist analogy. I agree.
So, thank you. Our fourth question tonight is from Rudy Ellis-Jones from Emmanuel College.
Oh, is it like different people from different colleges and stuff like that came to this? Oh, that's interesting. Okay.
Hello, thanks for coming to today's talk. So my question, as someone studying archaeology and biological anthropology, I've learned that moral codes and social norms have always been fluid, shaped by time, culture, power. So many ancient and recent societies embrace same-sex relationships and even the idea of third genders well before Western conservatism even existed. So when you claim that modern conservative values represent some kind of universal, objective moral truth, like you said on your chair over there, aren't you just defending a selective, historically recent ideology that erases most of human history and targets people who've always been part of it?
Ooh. I'm interested where Charlie might try to go with this one. Because, I don't know, he's gonna, like, probably try to argue that it's all based off of Judeo-Christian values, which, again, recent fucking advent, Judeo-Christian values, and Judeo-Christian was something that was, like, invented in the 30s, you know, for justifications for the Zionist state of Israel. But, you know, yeah, bibbidi-bobbidi, boobidi-bobbidi. Same with, like, the modern advent of fucking evangelicalism. It's all just, like, fucking recent fucking bullshit because of that colonial projects in the Middle East. But, you know, what can you say? Let's see what Charlie has to say.
No, but can you point to me of a... And maybe you can educate me. Can you point to me a great power that endorsed same-sex marriage? Not cohabitation, but marriage.
Ancient Mesopotamia.
As marriage. As recognized.
As marriage that exists.
Recognized by the state. 100%. And how did that work out for them?
Didn't also the Greeks also said, like, one of the most fucking valuable relationships is sexual This is something that I learned in my fucking Greek civics class, okay? Those wacky fucking ancient Greeks. But quite literally, ancient Greeks practiced fucking boy love, like, unironically, okay? Like, they believe that one of the greatest fucking relationships were between a older mentor and their younger fucking student. And it was typically a homosexual relationship. So, you know, nice fucking meme. I don't know if it was, like, broadly speaking, like, looked down upon by, like, different city-states. I have no fucking idea. I'm gonna assume probably yes, but... yeah, like, you know, like, cross age of consent, like, weird shit. The Greeks were pretty fucking wacky. Let's be fucking quite honest here.
It worked out perfectly fine. It was an accepted norm of society.
Okay, I still think it's wrong.
Okay, let's moving on. So you said it was based on scripture and you believe that there are moral, objective, universal truths.
Yes, there are.
So
murder is wrong today and murder was wrong 2,000 years ago.
Right, okay, fair. That's not same-sex, but fair. I see your point.
But there are moral truths that are transcendent of time, place, and matter.
Okay, but so just to clarify, you believe that this is in the Bible. This is laid out in the Bible. That man shall not sleep with man, and so therefore...
Well, it's also repeated throughout the New Testament as well. In the book of Matthew, Jesus reaffirms the biblical standard for marriage.
Okay, so I'm going to make two very, very quick points. So the first, so if we look at the Old Testament in isolation, just to start off with as an example, so let's look at Exodus 35:2, which suggests that if you work on the Sabbath, you should be put to death. If you look at Leviticus 11:7, it suggests that if you have pork, you should be put to death. Let me finish, I'll be done. If you plant two crops side by side, you should be stoned by your entire village. If you wear a suit, which you are wearing now, that contains two different fibers intertwined into the same jacket, you should be burned to the stake by your own mother. Now, following that rationale, in Leviticus 18:22, and it states that man shall not...
I think the pretty much the point here that the student is bringing up, which I think is an accurate point, is that deriving objective morality from the fucking Bible is really fucking silly. As like a surefire, complete moral code to live by is very fucking stupid, because there's a lot of shit in lessons within the Bible that are really, really fucking silly. And yeah, Boy Meets Mini, I think you can fucking attest to this. There's a lot of fucking bullshit within the Bible that has been written throughout by humans, by the way, okay? It's not like the Super Holy Man book, who was that was objectively written by God or whatever the fuck, right? That shit was written by humans. You know, a lot of humans have some silly fucking beliefs about stuff, but you know, whatever. Fucking, you know, getting stoned to death for Lysenkoism. Man, the Old Testament God would have really, really fucking hated Lysenko, dude. Me would have fucking hated Lysenko. That boy would have been fucking smitten immediately as soon as he started thinking about, like, oh, bro, like, think about it. Like, if you put two crops right by one another, like, they will form a relationship with one another that's brotherly and comradely, which means they're gonna fucking grow better together. Yeah, sure, Lysenko. Nice fucking meme. There was also the consideration that the law of the Old Testament was already fulfilled by Jesus. Jesus fulfilled the law, so no one had to be put to death. Now, what'd you look at that?
Will not sleep with man. Why aren't we burning ourselves at the stake as well? Why aren't we stoning ourselves to death? Do you care to address my main contention that Christ affirmed biblical marriage in the book of Matthew? And can you tell me the difference between the ceremonial, the moral, and the ritual law? And then
why the fuck would he have to fucking affirm that? That doesn't fucking make any sense. The point that the student was bringing up is that if we have to affirm, because Charlie Kirk has to believe in this, all right? If he derives his objective morality from the Bible itself, that means you have to approve of everything that was written in there. That is your complete moral compass and code. But we can, broadly speaking, understand why that's fucking stupid. So you don't have to, right? Society is a thing. Humans can think for themselves. They have free will. They have consciousness and can come up with, like, differing reasons and differing societal justifications to justify particular fucking things. But again, with Charlie Kirk, it's all about maintenance of hierarchy and control. Again, and just like you're fucking saying, Boy Meets Minnie, the point of faith is not to establish law. Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, you know, from all of this fucking concern trolling that that Charlie Kirk loves to do about Sharia law, of which he has done consistently, it's very interesting that he wants to establish law from phrases of the fucking Bible. Maybe in reality, Charlie Kirk might actually be a proponent of Christian Sharia. Crazy, isn't it? But yeah, the point of faith is not to establish law. It's to grow as a person and learn from experience. Jesus told the Pharisees this. Someone might need to tell Charlie Kirk that.
And finally, also, tell me about Christianity, the difference between the New and the Old Covenant, or are you just going to cherry pick certain verses of ancient Israel that do not apply to new Christianity?
Fair. So we'll look at 2 points then. So firstly, if we look at the Old Testament, we can see the kind of inconsistencies there. We've already touched upon that, right? That makes sense. Secondly, you mentioned the point of Jesus and Christ. He never mentioned anything to do with homosexuality at all.
Well, hold on a second. He affirmed biblical marriage as one man and one woman. He said a man shall leave his
Romans, right? In the New Testament.
No, in Matthew, that's not correct. I believe.
In the New Testament.
In the New Testament. Well, Romans is also in the New Testament. Secondly, in Romans 1, the Apostle Paul talks negatively about homosexuality explicitly. Also, homosexuality is repeated in the book of Titus and in the book of Jude as not being favorable as the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah. Not even talking about the Old Testament verses. There are 3 types of the 613 Levitical laws, and you know, of course, in your own way, cherry pick some of them. We do not live under the ceremonial, we do not live under the ritual, but we do live under the moral. There's only 10 of the moral that we as Christians believe we're bound to. Some believe 9, which of course is the Decalogue. And so
yeah, it's interesting how he's like Jesus' words are typically being brought up to, but to affirm his position on homosexuality, he's talking about Paul. That's not Jesus, bro. And he's talking about how, like, the Apostle Paul is, like, you know, the main voice of fucking Jesus. I never knew that the apostles were supposed to be the main voices of Jesus and not Jesus himself. Isn't that fucking heretical? Like, that's not supposed to be the case. The apostles are meant to help spread the word of fucking Jesus, but has Jesus ever said anything about homosexuality? No, it's only if I'm recalling this correctly. You can see if you can confirm if I'm being correct here, Boy Meets Minnie. If it's only Paul who fucking said that about homosexuality, we don't know if it's Jesus who said that, because at that point it could just be Paul himself coming up with some fucking bullshit. or people, rather, that are talking about the story of Paul and, might have done a little bit of a sussy change in the fucking Bible. There's been a lot of different versions of the fucking Bible throughout the years. Many, many fucking differences exist within the Bible. So, yeah, I don't know. Do we even know if that's exactly true or accurate? It's not like the Apostle Paul is alive at this point for us to ask that, or Jesus, so we can fucking ask what is his position on fucking homosexuality, even if he fucking existed. So that's cool. Yeah, and the organizations into chapter and verses didn't happen until 1000 AD. Yeah. Uh-oh. Man, that's a lot of fucking years. 1,000 years to be precise, as to where a lot of stuff can get changed to affirm certain positions and points of control for the institution of the church, Charlie.
Of those that you mentioned, we as Christians believe that we live under. However, we do look at what Christ articulated as the biblical standard of marriage. And we can also look to church tradition for this as well. And the church has had a tradition for well over 2,000 years. Even myself as a Protestant acknowledges that tradition is marriage between one man and one woman.
But okay, say we put aside the Old Testament for now. We'll put that aside.
That's true.
The New Testament.
Yeah, the Quran was organized, it would have been when the Prophet Muhammad was, he was the one who initially wrote and organized the Quran, right? If I recall correctly. I could be wrong on that one, right? I'm not very fucking religious. I don't know all this shit fucking 100%, right? But when he wrote the fucking Quran, he immediately fucking organized it in fucking chapters and shit, didn't he? Like, I don't even know if the Quran has chapters and verses. I don't know what the sort of like Quran's version of that would be. Like, you can like confirm if I'm right or wrong on that one, Boy Meets Me, because I'm not 100% certain.
Following your rationale, okay? Now, when you say that Christ lays specifically, and the New Testament states specifically that man shall not sleep with man, I'd like to point out a linguistic error on that point.
I did not say that. I said that the biblical marriage was affirmed, and then Romans 1 did talk negatively about the action of homosexuality.
But ultimately, that affirmation comes from 8 lines in there that suggest that man shall not sleep with man.
Yes, of course, yes. Because the Old Testament and New Testament harmonized one another, but Christ brought it to a different level, a different covenant, and a different moral teaching. It wasn't just enough to say that you shall, man shall strike eye for eye, so you shall turn the other cheek, that you shall love your enemy. Christ's moral standard was much more even elevated than that of the Israelites and the Hebrews.
Well, I'm going to ask you whose Bible, okay? Now, your Bible that you use currently is written in the English language, right? Correct?
Yeah, the King James Version. Yes, thanks to Tyndale.
Yeah, well, exactly. It's written in the English language, which in itself is only, say, 500 years old. Now, but the Christianity in itself, say, is 2,000 years old, or even older, yeah? Correct? Now, which means that the Bible was originally written not in English, but in ancient
Koine Greek.
Huh?
In Koine Greek.
Yeah, correct. Now, if we look at the Greek terminology of man...
Yes, and Jesus spoke Aramaic. You could translate things, you acknowledge that.
Well, we translate things, but translations are linguistically ambiguous. As a former classicist, I know that language can't be translated directly. So, for example, if we look at the translation of
that is true. There can be a lot of misinterpretations of errors, especially back then. This happened constantly through fucking which is the exact fucking point of I've also been fucking bringing up. It's just like, yeah, there can just be fucking random errors or certain interpretations that are understood by certain people in power who want to push particular messages for maintenance of fucking control.
Into man. So I've got 2 words here. So I've got malakoi, which means essentially soft, which isn't necessarily directly saying a gay man. And then we've got, oh God, how do I say that? Arsena koitai, which essentially means prostitutes. Now, if we look at things linguistically, we can pick apart the Bible and say that actually, it wasn't saying man shall not sleep with man, it's saying man shall not sleep with prostitutes, which is an entirely different linguistic thing.
I'm not even getting into Leviticus.
But no,
my contention is completely...
In India and Pakistan, it is often said Bibles in the Indo-Aryan languages are like Urdu, are closer to the Hebrew and Greek translation compared to the English translation. It's because of language similarity. Yeah, I don't think Charlie Kirk really knows about that because India and Pakistan are filled with brown people. Stinky. I don't think Charlie will be particularly content with that.
New Testament focused.
This isn't Leviticus.
Well, but you said man shall not speak on the man. So you're talking about Romans.
Well, okay, these words are used throughout the
Well, actually, in Romans 1, it was actually women sleeping with women. So you got your verses wrong. In Romans 1, Paul is prophesying about the end of the world, and he's saying that in the end times, woman will like with woman like, and man will. I think it might say man like, man like. You have to get the verses specifically, but it is agreed upon. And you can agree. This is why tradition is important, and I even say this as a Protestant: is that we believe that Scripture is very important, but also look to tradition. Church tradition has an unbroken chain affirming matrimony, holy matrimony being one man, one woman. One even as a non-Catholic, I'm glad that Pope Leo has reaffirmed in the last couple of days. And so I'm not even sure your contention, your point. Are you saying that the Bible doesn't affirm marriage as one man, one woman? Or are you saying church tradition doesn't affirm marriage one man, one woman?
The Bible doesn't affirm.
Well, clearly doesn't affirm. That is complete nonsense.
It's a linguistic error. And it's debated.
But Christ our Lord, which is the standard, he affirms this idea that you will leave your father's home. Going back to Genesis 12 and this idea of Abraham leaving his father's home, and you will cleave to your wife. That they'll be called one. In fact, this idea of a new creation, which is something that is then used by the Apostle Paul to describe the church of Christ and the bride of the church, and the church being the bride of Christ with Jesus. So I'm not even sure your contention. It is.
Yeah, but you're just avoiding my point. I'm saying the Bible that we have today is 100% a translation, and a translation
I acknowledge
is ambiguous.
I mean, this is technically correct. Yeah, Charlie Kirk is not really addressing the fucking main contention here because he can't really address it, right? Like, because again, Charlie Kirk has this particular idea that, like, you know, all queers need to be fucking killed, basically. Because again, maintenance of hierarchy and control. And he's using faith and the Bible as a vessel to do that.
Hold on, but what about specifically in Matthew or in the book of Romans? And but in order for you to be correct, you mean the church fathers translated it wrong when they were within like 50 years of this. In order for your contention to be correct, you have to say that the early church fathers that wrote the early letters to the church, they were translating it wrong, and the tradition they established was wrong. So by then we can lean on tradition.
When did that happen, Boy Meets Minnie? Again, like you've been saying, like the Bible was being organized as a text in about 1000 AD with like what Charlie Kirk is saying there, with the fucking like church father fucking. Whatever the fuck bullshit he's talking about right there. What does he mean by that? When was that happening?
Tradition and scripture. So when you get tradition plus scripture, you get something that is authentic, that is real, and that is verifiable.
I've already highlighted the tradition does not align with scripture. We've gone back thousands of years to ancient Mesopotamia.
But no, but understand that they all spoke Greek, they wrote Greek, and they spoke Aramaic. So, for example, when they were writing the early Gospels, the Synoptic Gospels of Matthew, Mark, and Luke, they were obviously writing in Greek. They knew that language. So in Matthew, when they were writing Greek, and then the early church fathers...
Well, yeah, that's because, again, the reason why I was in fucking Greek is because all this shit started in Greek, in Greece, specifically, under the Roman Empire. That's where Christianity started popping up, was in the Roman Empire in Greece specifically. That's where like the sort of like Christian movement against like paganism during like the late Republic era was beginning. Again, like Christianity, broadly speaking, wasn't fully adopted into the Roman Empire until like around the middle parts of the empire. Around the middle, there was still like a lot of pagan practices, but eventually one of the Roman emperors just like completely outlawed and hunted down all the pagans, basically. I don't remember exactly which one. I think it was about like 150 AD or something like that. I could be wrong about that, but I'm not 100% certain. Let me double check that. When was Christianity not created, but Christianity the main religion in Rome? Oh wow, I was completely off. 381. In the year before the First Council of Constantinople in 381, Christianity became the official religion of the Roman Empire when Theodosius I, Emperor of the East, Gratian of the West, and Gratian's junior co-ruler Valentine II issued the Edict of Thessalonica in 380, which recognized the Catholic Orthodoxy. Yep. So there might have been a lot of misinterpretations and stuff that have been probably lost throughout all this fucking time, Charlie.
Fathers knew Greek and adopted that as church tradition. We have a 2,000 unbroken chain. I think you would irrefute.
And yeah, like because that's when like Christianity started to be like the main sort of like not catalyst and spark like that. Like when was Christianity even created? Like allegedly, when was Christianity? Yeah, it took a while for it to be legalized in Rome, because eventually it was initially not fucking created. Christianity developed in Judea, mid-1st century CE, based first off of the teachings of Jesus and later on the writings and missionary work of Paul of Tarsus. Originally, Christianity was a small, unorganized sect that promised personal salvation after death. And obviously, like, again, all of this was started during the fucking Roman Empire.
Suitably say that it was the teachings of Christ for one man, one woman, because the church tradition has been unbroken for 2,000 years, and they derived it from scripture of that original language.
You can't argue that. That makes sense. I mean, if we agree to disagree, then might be look at
biology. So you know better than the church fathers?
No, I'm not saying I know better than the church fathers. What I'm saying is linguistically, that is undeniably an error. Regardless of what you say, that is
our lens, maybe, but not from the people when they were making these traditions.
I agree. They may have got that right, but that may not have been their original meaning. What we're saying is the meaning has been warped over time because societal and cultural contexts, such as the British Empire.
Can we bring this question to a close, please?
It can be, but that is why tradition matters, because the tradition, they understood the context.
Tradition is context dependent.
Well, yes and no, because of course tradition is, but if the tradition lasts for 2,000 years...
Yeah, because again, what fucking Charlie Kirk is essentially saying here is that, you know, well, the thing existed for long enough, therefore it is tradition, therefore it has to be based off of this particular thing, when that's not exactly how that works, you know? Things change and adapt throughout time. Christianity has changed a lot throughout the fucking years. You know, like let's not even pretend to forget about like why Protestantism even became a fucking thing to begin with, because like it was King Henry VIII wanted to get a fucking divorce with his wife, and the Pope said like, lol, no. And the bro really wanted to fucking divorce his wife, so he's just like, I'm making my own religion then, fuck you. So, you know.
Years, then we look back as to how did they get to that conclusion? How did they reach that verdict? And if that verdict is in alignment with what we see in Scripture, it means that their verdict was correct in Scripture.
They never reached that verdict. As I have historically pointed out,
in all of the major church councils, it was very
modern day.
Well, no, I'm talking about like 300 and 400 and 500. The original
in the scale of 2,000 years.
Well, Protestantism started in Germany with Martin Luther as well as the printing press. Well, you know, fucking, I'm really good with my religious history. I'm the best at that.
Is nothing. No, but they set this unbroken chain. We've had an unbroken chain in a course that says that marriage is one man and one woman. The church has never wavered on this.
Noted by the British Empire under British form of Christianity.
All the way back to like 200 or 300. The idea of biblical Christianity goes back to the early times of the church.
Wait, but hold on. Like, that's not the main fucking, like, a thing, right? He's trying to, like, harken back to all this fucking bullshit. But yeah, whatever. Yeah, there was no, like, what, Henry, the shit with Henry VIII, that was, like, in 1026 or something, I think, right? Something like that, right? I don't 100% remember with, like, all the military history knowledge that I do have. That's, like, mostly what I'm pulling off of. But yeah, still, no fucking Bible. Oh, you mean the original councils? Yeah, with the, like, the councils within Constantinople. Yeah, there wasn't a Bible yet, right? The Bible didn't come into existence until about 1000, like you were saying, so, like, Charlie Kirk doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about here.
When it was a scattered, persecuted church well before King Justinian and well before the Eastern Roman Empire, well before mass conversion, when it was a persecuted church, the church believed in one man, one woman, because they got it from the scripture itself. We want to keep going, or?
Can we move on to the next question, please? Thank you.
All they had was Torah and some scrolls.
Thank you. Our next question is from Damsit Wimalasena from Lucy Cavendish College. Thank you.
Well, I'm curious, is Cambridge Union, like, basically, it's like a collection of, like, different colleges or something? Different universities? I'm not 100% certain. I'm going to just operate on that assumption.
Hello, Charlie. Thank you for being here. Just before I start with my question, I wanted to address something you said earlier on sort of Western Christian values being the reason for the abolishment of slavery globally. I'm not sure whether you know this. I've seen you repeating this quite often. I'm a practicing Buddhist, and it was actually Buddhist emperors, Emperor Ashoka of India, who first abolished slavery globally. So I would ask you to sort of look at other sort of...
I will look into that. You did it globally? They had that much, the Buddhists had that much span of influence?
Oh, within India.
Okay, I'll look into it. Thank you.
Thank you. So first of all, my first question, or my only question is, you've advocated...
Didn't the Chinese also abolish fucking slavery earlier than Christians, right? Right? Yeah, Charlie didn't know that. When did the... I don't know why I opened a new tab here. I'm curious. When did the Chinese abolish slavery? They do that. Slavery in China has taken various forms throughout history. Slavery was nominally abolished in 1910, although the practice continued until at least 1949. The Chinese term for slave, noli, can be roughly translated to debtor, dependent, or subject. Who were the first to abolish slavery? Like, when did the Indians abolish slavery? What was this? Slavery in India was abolished in different stages of varying jurisdictions. I'm a little curious. Yeah, because obviously American slavery... It kind of depends, right? That guy's talking about old empires. Yeah. And then obviously when the old empires fall, things fucking change, right? And certain empires ban slavery depending on the... Because I'm trying to, like, operate this throughout, like, the nation-state lens, which I guess is, like, the sort of mistake that I'm doing here, to be honest. But it depended on the fucking empire, right? That they believed that there should be slavery or not. Because different empires... abolished different things at like certain times and stuff like that. You know, it's kind of dependent.
And applauded the reducing and removing of public funding for universities on the grounds they promote ideological biases. Given that universities play a critical role in driving national innovation, research, and upward mobility, especially through federally funded grants, how do you reconcile this position with the broader societal value that higher education institutes offer?
Well, they can, but in Harvard's case, for example, who's getting their funding pulled, they have a $50 billion endowment. Just so we are clear, in pounds, that would be like, what, 42 billion, 45 billion? I mean, I'm trying to learn the conversion rate here. I mean, it's an extraordinary amount of money. They can either use their endowments to fund it, and if you have certain behavior and certain practices, then you should not get federal funding. Harvard is in direct violation of the United States Supreme Court fair admissions case, which says you cannot discriminate people based on the color of their skin. Go ahead.
But isn't the whole...
But they haven't been doing that. Like, what the fuck are you talking? He's trying to do the whole fucking stupid woke DEI fucking, other bullshit of affirmative action. Even though, like, there's a bunch of Europeans that go to fucking Harvard. It's the same fucking bullshit. Woke DEI, fucking affirmative action bullshit. That's the point that he's bringing up here.
Whole point of it, you can't use endowments like that. The point of
they can.
The point of an endowment is to manage a fund through perpetuity. Cambridge has an endowment, and that endowment allows professorships to be funded to allow for research into sciences. That's the whole point of an endowment.
Hold on, you just said it funds research into sciences. That's what they should do with their monstrosity of an endowment.
Yeah, but the endowment is...
The interest alone on their endowment could fund the entire research and development budget of most Ivy League schools. They have a $50 billion endowment. Even like a podunk money manager in America can earn a 7 to 10% investment in the markets the last couple of years. That's $5 billion of returns that endowment could then reinvest in whatever they want. Instead, Harvard has become a hedge fund with a radical school attached. And I think that's very wrong for U.S. taxpayers to continue to subsidize.
But it's not just Harvard. You've called on colleges...
Yeah, like, I mean, that's just, like, fucking complete nonsense. Yeah, dude, because, like, some fucking students did some drum circles saying, like, personally, I think Palestinians being turned into mulch might be a bad thing, but, you know, very, very radical left-wing, indoctrination constantly happening throughout Harvard. All because this fucking dumbass Charlie Kirk just wants his, like, stupid, dumb fuck Christian teachings to be able to be the main thing that permeates throughout all educational fucking institutions. That's what it's all about for him. Again, you know, he wants to make sure, like I've been constantly saying, maintenance of hierarchy and control, and kids going to fucking university and getting more educated is a thing that can break those fucking hierarchical standards. So he wants to bring the fucking universities, who he sees as radicals or whatever, as, sort of being more brought in line with what the state and what fascism wants. Because again, hierarchy and maintenance of control. Universities and the teachings, especially of that of like the social sciences and stuff like that, and philosophy and all this other fucking shit, right, are things that can help break a lot of the sort of indoctrinations and teachings, broadly speaking, that white Western colonial societies help teach and reinforce societally and throughout elementary, junior, and high school.
Being a scam, you've constantly attacked higher education institutes, you've attacked liberal arts as a scam. For example, like a lot of conservatives, Peter Thiel studied philosophy at Stanford, Ronald Reagan studied sociology. A lot of them did study liberal arts, and you keep undermining these august institutions, which have provided a lot for society.
I don't know if I really like this sort of line of argumentations being brought here, because, like, Charlie Kirk doesn't really give a fuck about any of that stuff, right? Like, oh man, look at all these, like, prominent conservative thinkers that have, like, studied, like, liberal arts stuff. Like, why are you sort of, like, the hypocrite Charlie Kirk attacking that because of the based off of stuff like this? Because I don't really think this is going to be effective. Again, like, the only reason, it's all about hierarchy and control with Charlie Kirk. That's what he wants. Like, if you mostly attack based off of that point, then that's, like, the sort of, like, main fucking thing that's, like, gonna get him triggered in particular.
Like, society's backbones have been universities and higher learning institutes, and yet you keep attacking them.
Well, they used to be largely, but again, I don't want to speak too much about this country, but in America, they don't represent fundamental American values. You know, Peter Thiel, after he graduated Stanford, wrote an entire book criticizing college and then paying people not to go to college. So Peter Thiel, who spoke at this very school, and you guys had a great conversation with him, you know that he believes college is such a scam? He would pay people $100,000 a year for 20 years straight not to go to college. So not exactly a good argument in your favor. Peter Thiel, who got a philosophy degree, made billions of dollars, and has now forked over tens of millions of dollars for people not to go to U.S. universities and colleges.
Yeah, but it's not just Peter Thiel.
I know, but you mentioned him, I didn't. But to complete the point, is that...
Yeah, I don't know, like, Peter Thiel is just like a fucking schizophrenic freak, dude, who believes in monarchy, fundamentally speaking. The only reason why he became, like, as, like, a much of a ridiculous extremist as he does is not because of his fucking philosophical acumen or whatever the fuck. It's because he started listening to too much Curtis Yarvin and thought, like, you know, I have billions of dollars. I want to maintain perfect, hierarchical control under my fucking self with my billions of fucking dollars. That's what it's all about. It's silly.
Thomas went to did liberal arts.
Look, In America, there are far too many people going to college. We need people to become welders, electricians, people that work with their hands. There is a
learn a fucking trade bullshit. Dink donk, dink donk, dink donk. All this fucking stupid learn a trade bullshit. Like, all these motherfuckers, by the way, are advocating for fucking brain drain, okay? That's what they fucking want. Dude, I guarantee you, all this fucking, it started with all the fucking learn a code fucking bullshit. And also now we're starting to get the learn a trade fucking bullshit. Because again, it's about hierarchy and maintenance of control. Again, that's what it's all about. That's why they don't want people going to fucking higher education. Because again, if you keep people stupid, they're easier to fucking control. Yeah, exactly. It's all trade BS. And now all this learn a trade fucking bullshit's gonna be the exact same fucking nonsense. Like, that's the problem here.
Major trade deficit problem in the United States. We have 11 million well-paying jobs that we cannot find enough labor for.
Bro, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, yeah, learning a fucking trade's gonna help with a trade deficit. You still have to import in raw material, fucking Charlie. Like, what the fuck are you talking about?
And instead, we have a lot of people going to university to go study North African lesbian poetry. It might sound good, but it doesn't necessarily, A, either development of the content, of the character, or the development of the soul, and B...
The same point that I had in 2014. How the fuck do you not know that's not gonna develop anything for the soul? What the fuck are you talking about? Yeah, dude, sitting in front of a fucking blast furnace for 8 hours a fucking day is going to really help invigorate and learn and to treat the fucking soul of everyone. I'm not saying this because, like, you know, I think, like, learning a fucking trade is bad. Far from it. The problem is that this is being used to just, like, you know, this is essentially being used to sort of, like, help catalyze a new, like, form of get-rich-quick scheme, which is what Learn to Code basically was. And, whoa, Learn to Code and Learn a Trade meet another three-letter acronym, or three-letter fucking moniker. Supply and fucking demand. You're gonna make all these fucking tradesmen, they're not gonna have a bunch of fucking jobs, you're gonna have all these fucking dudes who need to do they fucking welding and carpentry work. You're not gonna have enough jobs, and guess what? You're gonna have problems with your fucking labor market again. Whoa, crazy.
It does not necessarily also give you the skills necessary. Some college is good for you. I'm a big proponent of Hillsdale College.
Guys, can you please be quiet?
I believe Hillsdale College is America's greatest college, and I'm a big proponent of that.
Who the fuck is Hillsdale College? Christian Classical Liberal Arts College in Southern Michigan that operates independently of government funding. That's why he's a fucking fan. Oh, notable alumni. Eric fucking Prince. I wonder why Charlie Kirk is a big fan in particular of Hillsdale College. Yeah, complete nonsense. And yeah, like you said earlier, Boy Meets Minnie, yeah, guess what? People can study Python and North African lesbian poetry. That's true. You have multiple credits to do a lot of different things with. You can learn multiple things at the same time in fucking university. Depending on the program that you're taking, of course. But that's what electives are for, Charlie.
But I would ask a question. In your own words, what do you believe the purpose of college is?
It's critical engagement. But coming back to your point on lesbian poetry or whatever.
North African lesbian poetry.
North African lesbian poetry. So in the morning, I actually had a lecture on development policy. And one of the key authors on sort of development economics is Nussbaum, who talks about how liberal arts sort of engages you critically. And one could argue, even North African lesbian poetry...
This is a pretty good argument that I like here already, because again, like, conservatives, fundamentally speaking, do not want people to engage in critical thinking. It's all about dumbing down further and further the populace. Why do you think I'm so fucking critical of Ronald Reagan defunding the subsidies that a lot of universities were getting, as well as George Bush's fucking policies of No Child Left Behind and all the standardized based testing bullshit? Because it's about fundamentally doing away with people's fucking critical thinking skills and abilities. Because what do capitalists want? Maintenance of hierarchy and control. If you're unable to critically think, the death of critical thinking, I've talked about this before. If you're unable to critically think, it becomes way easier for oligarchs, billionaires, and capitalists at the top of the hierarchy to control you.
I don't think that's a degree. I think that's just a module within a degree.
I mean, that's true.
Maybe.
Yeah, probably.
The fact you don't know shows how rotten.
For example, okay, hey, Charlie, do you think underwater basket weaving is a fucking goddamn degree that you can get in university? No, it's probably a course or an elective you can fucking take in university if you want to learn to underwater basket weave for some fucking reason in university. If you want to fucking do that, yeah, you can do that. Fuck it, whatever. If there's a class for it and it exists, YOLO swag. Or it's an extracurricular. Extracurriculars are also things, Charlie.
To the core universities have become.
You're taking one example and telling conservatives and hordes of young people that college is a scam. College isn't a scam. I mean, I took my mom down to a pub just down the road.
Yeah, because again, like, you know, whoa, it's an elective. Therefore, universities are a scam. You can just not take that elective, Charlie. You have free will and consciousness. And you can make decisions as a human being. That's a thing you're allowed to do, Charlie. You can do that. You know, that's not illegal yet.
Road where Watson and Crick announced DNA. If college is a scam, then DNA wouldn't have been discovered. With cancer research...
Hold on a second. Yes, you're right. At this specific university, you guys split the atom. You had Sir Isaac Newton. You had some of the greatest minds of the West. I don't know about what's happening here, and I'm not going to criticize it. But at most colleges in the West, they've gone away from places of inquiry and appreciation of what is good and what is beautiful, and into this incessant oppression Olympics of trying to deconstruct the core canon that is our birth certificate. I don't know if that's happening here.
That's called critical thinking and the evolution of critical thinking. That's how that works, Charlie. All the stuff that you want to fucking harken back to all the fucking time, guess what? We've already figured that shit out. So we're moving on. We're progressing forward, Charlie. That's what progression looks like. Oh, crazy, isn't it? Whoa.
That's not true, though.
In America, it is objectively true, okay?
That isn't true.
No, first of all, they removed Western civilization as a core course in Stanford in the 1990s. They tried to bring it back with petitions, and the university said, no, teaching Western civilization is racist. Shakespeare is not taught. Let me finish. Shakespeare is not taught.
What the fuck? What? What does that even mean? What? Doesn't matter? Also, the example of Shakespeare, that shit gets covered in fucking high school. Why the fuck do you care about Shakespeare not being covered in university? It's silly. That is also true, Boy Meets Mini. Yeah, for example, Galileo, the church were not a big fan of Galileo. Isaac Newton, church also wanted to fucking kill that guy as well. All this, like, harkening back and bullshit to the fucking dark ages of Europe is not exactly the good look. Again, he also would disagree with the Enlightenment liberal fucking values as well, for example, right? Charlie Kirk would explicitly disagree with those people. He would want them fucking killed by the Inquisition. So, you know, nonsense.
At major universities across America because it's deemed as racist. I talked to some students earlier in the English department, and they said, hey, I'm studying Shakespeare. I said, that's refreshing because in a lot of U.S. schools, they don't teach Shakespeare because he's called racist. You'd be surprised at how wretched to the core some of these colleges have become in America.
What the fuck does this even mean? What, like, why is Shakespeare not taught in U.S. universities? What the fuck is he talking about? Yeah, they don't want to do as much of a Eurocentric approach. Okay, I think that's fair. Let's be straightforward about this. Shakespeare is a central study to the study of English literature in general, and drama in particular, in a way that's relatively few other writers are. To say that he is difficult to read is ridiculous, while annotated edition of a play smooths over that difficulty. The works of no Renaissance writer continue to hold the stage. Like, why is this like Mr. Gross's point is this symptomatic of the nonsense that sidelines Shakespeare? At my own alumna mater Brown, I noted that's sorrow. Like what does this even mean? First, what is the obsession? I mean, this is just a random forum post. I'm not really seeing like anything. Why I'm rethinking of teaching Shakespeare. So it's like one person in my English classroom. Christina Torres is an 8th grade English teacher. Well, this is not in whatever the fuck. This is not in universities. This is an 8th grade teacher. One of the tight interests and the only other required by name Common Core. Not the only person who is starting to question Shakespeare's prominence in our classrooms. In 2016, students at Yale University petitioned the school to decolonize its reading lists, including by removing its Shakespeare requirement. Teachers are realizing that a lot of the curriculum in our classroom privileges white male European voices, which is true, by the way. and are beginning to question Shakespeare's relevance for students. No, so far this isn't about Shakespeare being racist. This is, again, about white Eurocentrism, which then Charlie's going to shift the fucking goalposts and make it all about racism. Yet the idea of removing Shakespeare from schools is fraught. A teacher who wrote a piece in the Washington Post calling for Shakespeare to be removed from the classroom was lambasted in the comments and called a buffoon, among other names. Many view Shakespeare's classical literature inherently good for everyone to read. 5 years ago, I would have agreed that teaching Shakespeare is inherently good. The English and theater major in me would have considered it sacrilegious to remove the bard from our collective educational experiences. Now, however, I feel guilty when I agreed to another year of Romeo and Juliet. I still feel excited about diving into language I love with my students, for helping them parse a difficult line, but at this very same time, I wonder if Shakespeare is actually good for my students to read. Yeah, you know, it's a good point, Boy Meets Mini. Yeah, ¿por qué no los dos? But, you know, deserve the studies to validate their experiences and cultures, something I know is important for their development. That is also true, again, but, like, Charlie Kirk is not very happy with, like, minority people getting more and more prominence. So, okay, this is what it is. Right here. The teachers want to help facilitate the sort of, like, representation and validation of experiences and cultures of a diverse set. And guess what? In America, a lot of different kinds of people exist. A lot of diverse fucking cultures and peoples exist in America. And so teachers want to help accommodate for that. So that's why. It's not about, like, racism or whatever. So, yeah, Charlie Kirk's fucking full of shit.
If you look at the Global Innovation Index, America, which is predominantly, a lot of their majors are in humanities and liberal arts, they're number 2 on the Global Innovation Index. China is somewhere near 13. If you look at every metric, Fortune 1000 CEOs, 40% did humanities and liberal arts. There is a value in liberal arts, yet you're criticizing
it. And I'm going to keep on criticizing it. Also, the vast majority of liberal arts graduates do not respect freedom of speech. That is an empirical poll. They increasingly do not have reverence or gratitude for the United States of America. They don't care about the core values of the U.S. Constitution. If you want to go to college, that's fine. But in our country...
No! They don't heckin' respectorino my Constitution. No!
40% of kids that enter college do not graduate. The kids that do graduate, half of them end up getting jobs that do not require any sort of college degree. There are all these made-up degrees. In America, I know it's different than the experience you might be having here. Your tutoring system here is objectively great. I'm glad you guys have it. The class sizes in America are 400 to 500 students, sometimes per introductory course. You go hundreds of thousands of dollars into debt, study things that don't matter, find jobs that do not exist. And so let me just make one final point.
That's a fucking problem with the economy, Charlie, not with universities. America has constantly talked about, whoa, crazy people joining fucking universities, defunding those fucking subsidies to make universities cheap within America and affordable, and the transitioning economy has made it such that, whoa, crazy, it is necessary to get a university degree in order to be able to be competitive in the job market. This is a problem with capitalism and the market structure, not with universities, Charlie.
Is that, of course, some people should be going to college, but generally in the United States of America, it has become a racket of debt, it has become a burden, and a place where we're actually not putting our best and brightest into the job field itself to be equipped for the jobs of the future. Instead, we have a lot of baristas at Starbucks with philosophy degrees.
You also mentioned indoctrination.
It's not about, like, baristas at Starbucks with fucking philosophy degrees. The problem is capitalism. There is no profit incentive for people with philosophy degrees besides becoming a professor at a university, Charlie. Ridiculous. And also, like, how many people are graduating with fucking philosophy degrees in comparison to, like, business administration or other fucking bullshits? Yeah, great fucking point, Boy Meets Mini. A lot of those baristas / unemployed people have computer science degrees. Why? Because of certain marketing strategies that have marketed them as get-rich-quick schemes like learn to fucking code. And guess what? When there's no jobs for those, crazy, they're forced to have to take barista fucking jobs. It's not liberal arts degrees to become fucking baristas all the fucking time. Nonsense.
as per the Oxford Dictionary's definition of indoctrination, it means that you take a belief and you can't critically observe that belief. Turning Point USA has over 30,000 chapters, 3,000 chapters across US universities. So are you arguing that students, including conservatives, lack the critical thinking skills to sort of decide political ideologies, political beliefs, that they're so dumbfounded that they can't decide for themselves what's right and what's wrong, and that your whole premise is on the fact that students like us, we lack critical thought in deciding what is taught in schools?
Again, I'm not...
That's a pretty good fucking point, because Charlie Kirk would probably make that fucking argument, because he doesn't want people to have... Well, more so like Charlie Kirk doesn't want people to engage further in critical thought, because if people engage in critical thought, specifically, guess what fucking happens? They don't become fucking conservative. Crazy, because fundamentally speaking... A fucking ideology that is completely against critical thought and engagement with, like, you know, philosophy or, like, liberal arts, or broadly speaking with critical engagement with the world, tend to be fucking conservative.
Not using Cambridge as the school that I think of, but in America, we have millions of people that go to these massive state schools that have humanities departments, that are not reading the great books, that do not have a tutoring system, that are unfortunately laced with the most anti-Western thought imaginable. I don't really quite following what one thing has to do with the other, why 3,000 chapters.
Again, the problem is because these are all institutions that are privatized, Charlie. They have to make a fucking profit. That's the fucking problem. Again, who removed those fucking subsidies and made it such that these fucking goddamn schools have to gain a profit as a way to go after having people becoming more educated and becoming an educated proletariat. That was Reagan who did that.
Has something to do with your indictment. Maybe you can clarify, but I think we're out of time. But in general, colleges should be a place that lift you up to what is good, true, and beautiful. To study the great things that have been, to develop your soul and develop your character. Character in Greek literally means like tattoo, to etch within you. Far too often, colleges create ungrateful, pessimistic, and nihilistic revolutionaries that want to tear down what was before and instead have no alternative to build a future.
Cope and fucking see. That's how critical fucking thinking works, Charlie. You want people to be fucking stupider and not engage in critical thinking. Again, the death of fucking education and critical thinking. So then it is easier for your billionaire fucking masters to fucking control them. Again, what have I been constantly saying? The root basis for what Charlie Kirk wants. Maintenance of hierarchy and control. To have nice little fucking worker bees go to their fucking corporate jobs or corporate fucking slop, whatever, to make money for fucking capitalists, which he benefits from because he gets paid by them to spew their propaganda.
Future, and the West is suffering because of it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I disagree. Thank you very much.
I'm just gonna go a little faster.
Thank you. Our next question is from Archie McIntosh at Jesus College.
It's good to meet you, Charlie. I hope you can understand first rule. I'm a little nervous. There's a very real chance I could wake up tomorrow front page of YouTube. Charlie Kirk owns man by an idiot with facts and logic. So
destroys.
Yeah, destroys. Okay, so my question is, I agree that stable monogamous relationships often produce the best outcomes for society, but if that structure really works for everyone, why do we consistently see societies, once they become safer and more prosperous, move away from traditional monogamy? And why do so many marriages still end in divorce, even among people who generally try to make it work? And just one final framing there. If you believe in free markets because they are decentralized, they adapt to reality without top-down control, and given the individual ability to form healthy long-term pair bonds vary significantly with factors like genetics and ecologically calibrated attachment styles, why do you reject top-down control in economics, but not extend that same rejection to human behavior in terms of marriage?
Okay, so the first one, the second law of thermodynamics answers your question. Is that
That's a pretty good fucking answer. A pretty good fucking question, by the way, right? You know, he loves the free market, but he's okay with top-down control in marriage and stuff like that. Man, yeah, that's a good one. And also, I don't know why we're bringing up the second fucking law of thermodynamics. Whatever.
It's the law of decay. Societies tend to decay against the roots that created them. For example, as a side note, here in this country, you guys invented the idea of free speech. You brought it to the world. You guys do not have free speech in this country anymore. 30 people a day are arrested in the UK for inflammatory social media posts. Someone by the name of...
I'm looking up that claim. 30 people a day arrested in the UK for social media posts. Reddit, the Free Speech Union. There's Russell Brand. They were arrested for posting during the riots. For Tyler Kay and Jordan Parler, justice for what they posted on social media came fast and heavy. I wonder what they posted about a particular riot. Well, so what riot are we talking about here? K26 and Parlor 28 have been sentenced to 38 months and 20 months in prison, respectively, for stirring up racial hatred online during the summer riots. What are the summer riots? Summer riots, UK. What was this about? Riots became Southport. Was this about, like, Muslim rape gangs or something? Anti-immigration protesters. Yep. Clashed with police and counter-protesters. Attacked homes and businesses owned by immigrants and attacked hotels housing asylum seekers. I'm starting to have an understanding as to what Charlie's having a problem with. Again, it's the whole fucking thing where it's a deflection. He's talking about fucking free speech when in reality these were hate mobs that were persecuting immigrants. Changes in the aftermath of the disorder felt like a significant moment in which people had to face real-life consequences for what they said and did online. There was widespread recognition that false claims and online hate contributed to the violence and racism on the British streets in August. In their wake, Prime Minister Keir Starmer said social media carries responsibility for tackling misinformation. More than 30 people found themselves arrested over social media posts. That doesn't seem like 30 people a day. From what I found, at least 17 of those have been charged. So 13 of them have been let go. The police will have deemed that some of those investigated did not meet the threshold of criminality, and in plenty of cases the legal system could be the wrong way to deal with social media posts. But some posts that did not cross the line into criminality may have had real-life consequences. For those who made them, no day of reckoning. And nor, it seems, with the social media giants whose algorithms time and time again are accused of prioritizing engagement over safety. I wonder why that's the case. Guys, it's almost as if it's bad that these things are commodified. Crazy. Pushing content regardless of the reaction it can provoke. Hi, Elon. I don't know if we really need to go through the rest of this. Yeah, I don't think this necessarily really matters as much, to be honest. So, yeah, 30 people a day, when it's only 30 people have been arrested over social media posts. About half of them have been let go with no charges. Not exactly accurate there, Charlie.
Lucy Connolly is currently facing prison time for a Facebook post that was critical of migrants. It is normal, unfortunately, for civilizations to get away from...
Are you sure that it was critical of migrants? Lucy Connolly. What was her post? What was the post? What did she say? What's the post? Called for mass deportation now. If that makes me racist, then so be it. Expletive post on the day 3 children were killed at a dance class in Southport and Maryside, urging followers to set fire to hotels which house asylum seekers. Explicit calls to actions? Connolly's husband was a conservative member of the West Northamptonshire Council. Well, this seems like I think Charlie might be lying. And this was a fucking wife of someone who was an elected representative.
How they once operated and how they once were. Now, to your question, does that answer the first part of your question? You were saying, why do they get away from monogamy? I want to make sure I answer your question.
I would say I don't feel that that's a full answer.
Okay, so you're asking why do they get away from what works? Is that correct?
Yes. Well, why do societies make this change once they become more prosperous?
Oh, yeah, okay. I mean, because prosperity leads to degeneracy, for sure. That would be the answer. And so once you are prosperous, you tend to no longer have the moral guardrails or the limitations that let's just say, you no longer...
Wait, hold on. Prosperity leads to degeneracy? Was the Weimar Republic fucking prosperous? Like in an economic sense? Charlie would argue that was a degenerate society. Makes you think, doesn't it?
longer have delayed gratification because you have instant gratification because you have a surplus of goods, and then you have a decline of a transcendent moral order. The second part of the question, can you remind me, please, what the second question was? About markets? Yeah. Oh, yeah, okay. Well, for example, I believe in intervention in markets if there is something that is improper morally. So, for example, I do not believe that you should be able to scam your neighbor or have misleading advertising because I believe in a transcendent moral standard, and the same goes for my personal views on marriage.
Okay, so I think we largely agree on the foundation. I'd like to propose something you might like to think about. So, firstly, I absolutely acknowledge that, again, if everyone in society was able to maintain healthy long-term pair bonds, that would be best. Again, there's strong data showing that independent of socioeconomic factors, broken homes are some of the strongest predictors of poor life outcomes.
We totally agree.
Yes. And even, I'm not sure if people are aware of this, but if you track, as countries become more socially egalitarian, somewhat surprisingly, rates of female depression and anxiety also spike disproportionately. So I think one of the problems here is that when you try and impose more absolutism, inevitably, again, due to variance in attachment issues, due to industrialized culture, absent parents, screens, raising kids, around 50% of adults in the West develop attachment disorders, which make it very difficult to maintain long-term pair bonds. And then additionally, you have things like variation of oxytocin receptors, in density and shape, also in vasopressin. There are going to be, even if there's 5% of people who feel that these rules really do not fit them, they will push back. And this will create ideologies that then grow into more wider appealing ideologies, which then, leads to change. I think this is what happened in the sexual revolution. It started with a push for female autonomy, and then it was almost morphed into a really exaggerated expression of pushing for maximizing individual freedom. And I think when you try and impose more absolutism this way, it just inevitably causes pushback. And I think if you were to, as someone with a platform, instead say, hey, monogamy is great, but
that's a pretty good fucking point, I'll be honest, right? I wonder why. If, for example, this is the same thing that's fucking happening with all the South Korean feminist protests, right? A lot of them are pretty pissed with how they're being fucking treated, the sort of moral absolutism that the patriarchy exists within fucking South Korea, and they want to have more fucking freedoms for themselves, right? To be able to make more decisions, right? Broadly speaking, to seek a change in the culture and stuff like that. But, men within South Korea, since most of them are fucking incels because of complicated socioeconomic reasons, but that's a whole other fucking story, blah 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 blah, want to impose very strict moral hierarchies on those fucking women. So, well, inevitably there's gonna be a fucking clash there.
For most people, but I also understand there are some people it doesn't work so well for. More people would hear the message that you want to push.
Okay, thank you for that. That's interesting. I've actually never gotten that question before. It's very thoughtful. Would you say you're against moral absolutism then?
Yes, I would.
Are you against that absolutely?
No, I'm very open to having my mind changed. And
so it's not an absolute thing.
Well, I'm against moral absolutism.
Are you against moral absolutism? Absolutely.
No.
Bro, why are we playing fucking stupid semantics games? Okay, bro, yeah, whatever. Or are you said the word absolute? Are you absolutely against absolutism, bro? Yeah, totally. It's stupid.
Okay, so you're consistent. So I think it's preference, it's about preference. And you can just basically do whatever you prefer. There is no transcendent moral order.
Well, I think what you're doing there is slightly unfairly putting me into a loop, because I'm very open to having my mind changed.
What I'm saying, though, is that by definitionally, and this is something that will keep on coming back, you must choose what moral standard we live by. I'm very clear as to what moral standard. The lie of the West, of modernity, the last 30 years, is that we're going to have you live and let live, and there will be no moral standard. That itself is a moral standard, and it's a really bad one. And to your point, that yes, it creates more suffering, it creates more despair. And no, I disagree with what you said.
Wait, what happened to fucking freedom, Charlie? I thought we cared about, freedom. Well, what's going on? But you want to do top-down hierarchical structure? And because, again, that's all it's ever been about with Charlie. That's all that these fucking conservatives ever want. They just want to maintain control for capitalists and oligarchs and for themselves because they see themselves as the one on the top of the hierarchy.
And I respect the heart of what you're saying it. I will say that I have a moral obligation not to accommodate when people fall short, but instead try to lift them up towards the standard that is true, and I know that works.
So where I'd push this is I'd ask you describe people falling short when they fail to engage in long-term monogamy. What do you think causes that? Why do you think some people struggle?
Many reasons. Economic is one of them, but the biggest is the death of religion and the death of Christianity in the West. As America, let's talk about America.
Yeah, that's not the main reason. It's purely fucking, at least Charlie fucking acknowledges, because most people would not fucking acknowledge that. No, it's purely economics, right? We're gonna do the meme, okay? This. The fact that you have to at the very least have 2 fucking income. You know what I've been starting to see TikToks of, Boy Meets Mini? You know what I've been starting to see? And this is stuff that fucking Charlie would fucking lose his mind over. A lot of polyamorous sort of relationships, bisexual wife, having an extra girlfriend, for example, for the fucking heterosexual fucking husband. I've been seeing that is also starting to pop up as well. It's yeah, not only is it going to be great for us financially, but extra fucking sex partner, let's fucking go. I wonder what Charlie Kirk would have to do that. And the reason why that couple in particular, I guess throuple in that particular was doing that is because of economic fucking reasons, primarily speaking, because they were talking about, first and foremost, man, it's going to be a lot more fucking easier with a third fucking income to be able to pay these fucking bills. Because that was the first order fucking principle.
UK is unfortunately far less churched than America, but as America has become less churched, so many of these social ills rise.
So one thing I'd say, I study the evolution of behavior, in particular sexual romantic behavior. If you track all the different hunter-gatherer cultures that we can study, and we track how agriculture shapes things, you see that ecological conditions really reliably predict the prevalence of monogamy, certain marriage systems, and what I think is what we refer to as attachment issues. They seem to be an ecological calibration to an environment. In environments that are more unstable, it's less optimal for an individual to grow up with a tendency to rely on long-term pair bonds. And I think there's a mismatch with the modern world, again, going back to industrialization. There are so many people who raise kids as absent parents. They
Return to monkey, let's go.
It causes people to struggle to bond long-term. And again,
Ted was correct the whole time.
Real research showing that especially vasopressin mutations, oxytocin mutations, some people really just do not have the proclivity for this.
What brings stability? Because you say stability is a good thing, and what would bring stability?
So first of all, I would say we had what you might consider stability in the previous century, and then it became unstable. And then things. Why? I'm saying because moral absolutes.
Because of socioeconomic factors, the death of fucking unions in the 70s. That's what's bringing in instability. Labor is not able to does not have anywhere near as much power. Again, I'm bringing back the fucking chart, dude. It's because of shit like this. No one's getting fucking paid. So there's instabilities, and people are pretty fucking nihilistic and depressed as a result because no one can fucking afford anything. They can't fucking participate in the economy for as to how, like, you know, in the, sort of like the societal standards for as to how one is supposed to participate in the economy. No one can fucking do it anymore. Generational wealth, that's also fucking dying as well. Millennials, good luck fucking affording a house. Same with you, Gen Z. None of you motherfuckers can fucking afford housing at all because no one gets fucking paid.
It wasn't posed.
Moral absolutism was lost. You see, modernity rose. We started to teach our kids moral relativism, and we got rid of moral absolutes. So it's the opposite.
So why was it lost? Was it lost because people stopped pushing for down?
Why was it lost? That's a question for far smarter minds. I can only tell you that it was. In America, it's honestly one of the worst decisions, not the worst ideas ever, which is modern feminism, largely from Betty Friedan's feminist critique.
Because of feminism, right? Because allowing fucking women to have more say within, you know, out of the fucking absolute hierarchy is the main problem, and not because of fucking economics. You know, Charlie Kirk is quick to mention economics as like a little fucking flashpoint. Be like, yeah, you know, I acknowledge that there's some economic problems because he has to pretend to be fucking populist. No, actually, it's because of those femoids, those fucking femoids, getting more freedoms and liberties for themselves. Wait, Charlie, I thought we cared about, like, you know, free speech and stuff like that. But again, you know, it's all about maintenance and hierarchy. Fucking all about maintenance of hierarchy and control and stuff like this. When in reality, it's the fucking economy, stupid.
Mystique, feminist mystique, which acted as if every woman who's in a monogamous marriage in the States is in some sort of tyrannical environment. And it has led to the women of the West being the most miserable, most depressed, most suicidal, most prescription drug addicted cohort on the planet. And I think we need to...
Well, it kind of depends, right? Like, the societal standard for what you want to harken back to, the sort of what you want marriage to be, is tyrannical, inherently speaking. It depends on the fucking relationship, obviously, but what you want overall is tyranny, Charlie. Yes, that is accurate to say. Fucking, do you think Charlie Kirk would want women to be able to still vote? Well, he wouldn't admit it. He wouldn't admit it. You know, he's not, like, fresh and fit. He wouldn't want to fucking go as far as repealing the 19th, but eventually he would want to repeal the 19th. Also, guess what? A lot of the, and this is like, I think the star of this fucking debate, I think is a TikToker. I forget her name because I'm really bad with names, but she's a TikToker who really fucking puts Charlie on the fucking ropes. Mentions how not only do women also have to sort of participate within society in terms of work and economic productivity, they're also still expected to also be the main caregivers of the fucking home. So guess what? That's a double whammy for women right there. I wonder why they may be really fucking stressed and fucking depressed, because they're still expected to be the main primary caregiver, but also contribute to the economy and still work a fucking job. Where the man, they're supposed to only be the fucking breadwinner. They're supposed to be the only ones that are fucking earning money. They're not expected to have to take care of fucking children. But, you know, I don't think Charlie really gives much of a fuck about that. Maybe Charlie doesn't want women to open credit cards again or something, because that used to be something that women couldn't do until the 70s.
Appropriately challenge feminism and tell young women that it's okay, in fact, it's courageous to get married and have children again. I think we'll solve a lot of our problems.
Well, I've been told to. Thank you.
Children are expensive, Charlie. I wonder why they're not having children, Charlie. I wonder why they're not having children, Charlie. I wonder why no one's having fucking kids, Charlie.
Our next question is from Tilly Middlehurst at William College.
It's her!
So I'm a feminist. My
It's a
question is about the role
TikToker.
of women, though. What should women's role in public and private life look like, and what are the material benefits of that?
Well, thank you for that. Can I take it? I don't even want to take this detour, but can we both agree on what a woman is?
Yes, an adult human female. It's a biological state of being that is also social experience. Can I please?
I don't know why Charlie is doing the whole Matt Walsh meme. What the fuck kind of relevance does this fucking have to the fucking question? It's about, like, the expectations that women have in society, Charlie. Why are you doing your whole little fucking transphobia shtick right now? Stupid.
Please elucidate just one example of that social experience.
Yeah, I was going to answer your question, but go ahead.
Yeah, okay. So let's say you're a member of a tribe, and in that tribe, you have the biological female anatomy, and in order to become a woman in that tribe, you have to also get a tattoo. That's a social experience that's mapped onto biological reality.
So can a woman have a prostate?
Can a woman have a prostate? Biologically speaking, a woman is an adult human female that has a biological reality, but it's also social experience, right? So I don't.
It's super easy. Like, can a woman have a prostate?
So as per my definition of woman, I would say that people who have a prostate are biologically male, but they can sometimes be socially treated as women.
Okay, got it. So.
Yeah, exactly, Charlie. I think that's a pretty good, succinct definition. Well, crazy. But he can't have that. It's like, oh, well, you're just saying that woman can have prostate. When it's just like, no, that's not what she's exactly saying. She's saying the trans affirmative fucking position, saying like, yeah, biologically speaking, they can still be male because they still have a fucking prostate. And that's like, whatever and stuff. But socially speaking, you can still treat them as a fucking woman because, you know, they decide to fucking identify and sort of present themselves as a woman. So therefore, you should, yeah, I don't know, be socially respectable of the fact that they are a woman. Like, I mean, yeah, that seems pretty fucking reasonable to me. But of course, Charlie must have a problem with that.
So women can have prostates. Okay. So you're a feminist that actually isn't just fighting for women, you're also fighting for men.
So yes, yeah, men also experience harms from patriarchy, but I argue.
We're talking about the same feminism, but just make sure.
So men also experience harms from patriarchal domination, but I would argue that those harms come from that system of domination itself. In the same way, for example, this isn't a threat, but if I reached across and punched you in the face, then my hand might hurt. Right? So are we understanding that there are like patterns of power? So I would also fight for the rights of men as a feminist, just as I would fight for the rights of women.
Sure. You think women are happier than they were 4 years ago?
I think I would have a few responses to that. I think that women report more stress and dissatisfaction today because not because they have more rights or because of feminism, but because they're under dual pressure to both excel professionally and also because of the domestic.
That's the point that I took from her. I took that point from her. Because it's a great point. It's a really good fucking argument. Because, yeah, again, now women are expected to do double duty because they become more prominent in the fucking workspace. But they're still also expected to be primary caregivers. How do you engage with that, Charlie?
Labor in homes is structured around outdated expectations. So, for example, studies like the OECD's Better Life Index show that women's life expectancy, education levels, professional achievements have risen in countries with higher gender inequality. So, I would argue that what you're calling unhappiness is actually visibility because now we hear women expressing dissatisfaction, whereas in the 50s we prescribed them Valium and we lobotomized.
Cooked.
That's really rich. I didn't know women not to complain 50 years ago. That's funny.
Nice little snide comment there, Charlie. Like, that doesn't really fucking engage with the point. Like, it's like, man, my bitch fucking wife decided to fucking complain to me about me not putting the shoes properly on the rack. Am I right, fellas? Women, right, fellas? Yeah, sure, Charlie. That's like that's totally, like, relevant to the main fucking argument that's sort of being made here. Nice fucking meme.
Hold on a second. Why are suicide rates going up more for women?
I think that encourages.
Complaining materially, women are killing themselves. Why is that?
I think that.
Alright, Charlie, the suicide rates amongst men is still fucking higher. Suicide rates amongst men is the highest it's ever fucking been, dude. Suicide rates among men in the US. They're the fucking highest. This in 2022, the suicide rate amongst males was 4 times higher, 22.9 per 100,000 than among females. That's still crazy amounts higher in comparison to women. But he's saying like, oh wait, what do you mean? Why it's going up significantly for women? Yeah, because guess what? Like the fucking point that was mentioned earlier, because of the dual stresses that women have now and are becoming more visible in society, some of them can't fucking handle the stress, so they end up fucking killing themselves. But you know, when I've talked about like the shit and problems of men, right? A lot of them are not able to sort of perform to their sort of societal standards and what is expected of them, which is making them extremely fucking stressed out. And guess what? They're killing themselves for it. But Charlie's not proposing solutions for that problem. You know, he wanted to have, like, state-ordered fucking brides in order to sort of do that. But again, I keep going back to this fucking graph constantly because it turns out it fucking has relevance every time. This is the fucking reason why men are stressed out and killing themselves, Charlie, because nobody's getting fucking paid and no one can fucking afford anything. But Charlie would say it's because of, like, woke-tard, libtard, fucking stupid-ass, like, liberal arts college degrees. Silly. It's complete fucking nonsense. No, it's because We live in a new fucking Gilded Age, Charlie. That's the problem.
Even if both men and women have become happier, men's suicide rates have risen as well, and that's also been exponential. Can you at least concede that feminism offers only one potential explanation? There could be also other explanations.
Obviously, but feminism is the glaring thing in front of us, where we have fertility rates down, we have marriage rates down, we have unhappiness up, and we did something in the 1960s out of universities of Ready for Dan.
Oh, we did something out of the 1960s. Oh, really? Wonder what happened in the 60s? Or started happening in the 60s?
And Gloria Steinem and all these feminists that basically said you're trapped in a home, go get a job, freeze your eggs, take birth control, and all of a sudden women are way unhappier than they were 4 years ago. And I just have to ask the question, why is that? Is it working? And maybe there are biological differences between men and women that we should respect, and that deep down...
Again, like, this isn't, like, really addressing any of the main fucking points at all, Charlie. The problem is no one can make fucking money, Charlie. That's the problem. The sort of comfortable middle-class existence that the American dream fucking promised is dead. A lot of those fucking same feminist scholars and authors say the exact same fucking thing. They're not pointing it to the main fact of being patriarchy. They also point it to being a socioeconomic problem.
A lot of women want to get married and have children. In fact, we should applaud it, and we should support it, and we should say it means nothing if you're going to be a CEO of some shoe company or be some banker in London. What matters if you raise children and you have something to pass down long after you're done.
I think I would bring two.
Hey, Charlie, like I said before, kids are fucking expensive. Good luck fucking raising those fucking ankle biters when fucking shit like this is the fucking case. But yeah, totally. It's all because of fucking feminism or some shit. Yeah, whatever, dude.
2 points to that. The first one is just really simple, which is that you can ascribe liberalism all you want as a cause of the unhappiness. I would argue something else. I would say that a certain economic policy that has very little to do with the social acceptance of alternative lifestyles. I would say that we can recognize that income inequality across a vast swathe of Western countries has increased, which causes all kinds of social ills, a lack of social cohesion, housing price growth.
She's making the economic argument. Wait, hold on. You can't say that to Charlie. He can't actually fucking engage with it. Crazy.
Correspond with wage growth, monopolies increasingly become kind of emboldened to interfere with politics, and monopolies don't prioritize social health either. I think that those offer more compelling reasons for decline in happiness than an increase in freedoms. Because just one more thing, on an intuitive basis, generally speaking, people want more freedom, not less.
Wait, so if that's true, why is it? Do you agree that the happiest women in the West are married with kids?
I would have to look into it, but I'm certain.
Again, that's not fucking relevant. It's not about like women being happiest with fucking kids or some shit. No one is fucking having... Because he can't ever talk about the economics about any of this, right? Because he knows that's a fucking loser. So he has to constantly talk about fucking other dog shit. Feminism. Married women with kids are way happier. Fuck, I can't engage with the economics about this whole... about the whole position of, people not being able to make enough money in order to sustain themselves because it's a fucking loser for him.
Objectively, we know that, right? The women with kids are not the ones tearing down statues, right? They're the ones that actually have obligations.
Tearing down statues correspond to some kind of smiles per capita data set that I wasn't aware of.
And it's a little bit of a...
Yeah, I don't know why the fuck we're talking about women's tearing down statues. Like, what, they're doing the fucking whole meme in Iraq with Osama bin Laden statues, tearing it down? That was all Iraqi women doing that. It's stupid.
Minor. The happy and the grateful. The happy and the grateful usually don't go burn down Wendy's in their spare time, which we saw in our country all throughout a single summer. But as a side note, you would agree, objectively...
What the fuck are you talking about? Yeah, dude, because Derek Chauvin kneeling on the neck of fucking George Floyd is the main driver of fucking unhappiness. No, dumbass. Again, it's economics. It's the money, stupid. It's about fucking having a good job, and no one can get fucking good jobs anymore because America has been hollowed out, economically speaking, by people that you do defense for, Charlie. Actually, hold on. Charlie Kirk net worth. Let's do a little... Well, as per the AI overview, $4.7 million Spanish-style estate in Arizona. Well. We got a millionaire here, huh? Celebrity net worth. Charlie Kirk net worth. $12 million. Of course, it's a celebrity website, so you always take it with a grain of salt, but as of 2025, this is from Tuco News, Charlie Kirk's net worth is allegedly $12 million. Whoops. How Trump's MAGA movement helped a 29-year-old activist become a millionaire. Charlie Kirk's $4.7 million Spanish-style estate. I wonder why he's getting a Spanish-style estate, not American-style estate. I wonder. It's tucked away in a gated Arizona country club that charges nearly $500,000 for a golf membership. It boasts a guest Castilla, a resort-style pool, and striking views of the Sonoran Desert. I wonder why Charlie never focuses on economics, and it's all this, like, stupid, idiotic fucking bullshit about, like, women not being in the fucking home. Makes you think, doesn't it?
Survey that the women of the West that are married and have children, especially a lot of children, are far happier than even the ones that earn more money correlated to the same age.
So I also don't think happiness is a very good metric, and neither do you, because you think gay people shouldn't just pursue happiness by being gay. They have other moralistic considerations to be making. So I don't think smiles per capita is
That's a pretty good fucking point there that's being raised. And also, whoa, crazy. Like, again, another fucking deflection here by Charlie Kirk. He can't fucking engage fundamentally with, like, the main fucking topic at all. Because it's not about, like, people being married. It's about economics, stupid.
particularly convincing way to measure whether or not we should encourage women to be autonomous. I think we should maximize agency within a fair system that has reasonable parameters because it's expedient, it's good for the economy, it's logical, it's a moral thing because if we can't prove material harms, we shouldn't discourage it. And also self-reported studies is a really flawed way to do psychology. It's the week before my university exams. Right now, I'm standing here explaining the basic methodology behind survey collection in sociology, which you don't even think is a real subject, to Charlie Kirk. If I took one of those surveys right now, I'd check extremely miserable. But so would a Palestinian child who's been torn to smithereens. How are we going to measure
extremely miserable?
No, I'm kind of making a joke.
No, I mean, but seriously, like, but hold on. I mean, like, that's an important point, though, is that the women in the West have it the best in the world, and yet they're way unhappier than women of sub-Saharan Africa. There's something fundamentally wrong here.
What the fuck are you talking about? Again, yeah, dude, women in sub-Saharan Africa who are probably being, I don't know, hunted down and, like, constantly, like, I don't know, like, abused by, like, random warlords or some shit, or because of their civil societies being constantly unstable as a result of Western fucking exploitation and colonialism. Haven't had time to develop those fucking civil societies. Yeah, also, yeah, where's the source on that, Charlie? That Western women are less happier than women in sub-Saharan Africa, dude. You know, we gotta bring in our schizo fucking racist conspiracy theories or something. Nonsense.
The women of sub-Saharan Africa have something that a lot of women in the West do not have. The women in the West have caps and they have good jobs, and the women of sub-Saharan Africa, they will believe in the divine and have kids. And maybe there's a biological undercurrent that is keeping a lot of women.
Yeah, dude, because if every fucking godly woman has to have like 7 trillion kids and it's not some weirdo fucking indoctrination bullshit that happened. It's complete fucking nonsense. Again, I point to the fucking graph that I seemingly keep doing. And also to the point that was raised earlier by the fucking girl there. The problem is that now women in the West are expected to not only have jobs, but still be the primary caregiver of children. Whoa, that doubles the fucking stress that they have to fucking deal with every fucking day. Crazy. Again, it's the economy, stupid.
From realizing their full potential. And so without reading your phone and just, like, you know, connecting.
I'm not really reading my phone.
Well, it's fine. Sure, then you can answer without it. Fair enough. Would you agree that it's a good thing that more women get married and have children in the West?
I would ask you, would you say that a sub-Saharan African woman who's experienced female genital mutilation and checks extremely happy in a survey, and I also would check extremely happy in a survey, who do you think would be objectively more happy, even if they both check the same answer?
No, okay, so I fully want to talk about how Islam mistreats women. We can talk all day long. I'm all for that.
Me too.
Okay, good.
Oh, man, it's time all about the fucking Islam stuff like that. Like, again, this tangent, it's so fucking stupid. It has no prevalence or anything. It's just Charlie doesn't want to answer the economic arguments.
We agree. We should shut off Muslim immigration to the UK, right? We totally agree.
I think that all religious fundamentalism is bad, and if you take that logic, we should also not allow evangelical Christians in the UK.
Okay, hold on a second. That's fine. Can you show me a single...
Got him.
How would your example, because I have 50, of a single Christian country that you would say mistreats women, right?
America.
Oh, really?
Yeah, America. Yeah, great example. America, Roe v. Wade. It got overturned. Quick from the AI overview, but sure, fuck it. In 1973, the Supreme Court case Roe v. Wade established a constitutional right to abortion, but this was later overturned in 2022. Now, our Charlie would argue that, wait, this isn't like abusive to women, but again, Charlie Kirk is okay with women who get raped and have babies from either rape or incest having to carry those babies to term. He doesn't have a fucking problem with that. He doesn't give a fuck about any of that stuff. But yeah, sure. Very fucking cool, Charlie. But yeah. Very, very fitting that her with the fucking America fucking sweater is doing this directly to fucking this dumbass charlatan's fucking face, saying like, yeah, America is incredibly abusive to women. Again, in America, when did women in America get the right to open a bank account? 1974, Charlie. But this was also post-civil rights being passed as well. Well, I thought, like, civil rights was all over because that got fucking passed by Lyndon B. Johnson. I guess not, guys. It's almost as if it's an ongoing battle constantly because we have charlatans like Charlie Kirk who want to fucking take it away. Crazy.
We have a female woman vice president. We have a female vice president, a female speaker of the House. Women earn more than men in America.
Yeah, dude, like, because women are like, in vestiges of fucking power because they're getting more fucking power and representation doesn't mean they're not being mistreated and abused. Roe v. Wade was overturned in 2022, Charlie.
Female representation in government supersedes the UK by quite a lot. Do women get treated better in Rwanda?
Okay, I might be super off this. Like, is Rwanda Islamic? Like, I'm not totally sure I don't think it is. Like, is it? Like, I don't know, actually.
What the fuck is this, like, stupid fucking racism bit, dude? Yeah, because, like, the proclivity of Islamic countries is to, like, beat their fucking women or some shit. Dude, if you had the world that you wanted, Charlie, you would be able to beat your fucking, women. Oh, thank you, Boy Meets Mini. Rwanda's mostly Christian. Let's confirm that. Rwanda, religion percentage. Catholicism, 40%. Pentecostal, 21%. Protestantism, 15%. Seventh-day Adventists, 12%. Other Christian, 4%. Muslim, 2%. Nice try at fucking religious discrimination there, Charlie Kirk.
It's not. So, again, Islam is a little bit of a side note, but you must be morally clear because you brought up female genital mutilation, which is a teaching of the Islamic faith. But as a side note, like, again, this is very...
Huh? Is female genital mutilation... Yeah, it's probably not, but you know, let's humor this. Mutilation taught in Islam. FGM in the context of Islam. Fuck it. On the contrary, female circumcision is a mutilation of God's almighty creation by cutting and inflicting injury. Oh, the prophet forbade such alteration. Well, that didn't take very long to see. Whoa. Crazy. They're against it. The Prophet Muhammad did not agree with fucking female genital mutilation. But a lot of Christians seem to be okay with male genital mutilation. What do you think circumcision is? That makes you think, doesn't it?
Very important, which is, I'm not here to require you to do anything or not. I'm making a simple observation, which is objectively true regardless. The women of the West are miserable, and they're miserable for a reason, because we told them to suppress how they are made by God and pursue something else.
It's this. How many times have I keep bringing up the fucking graph over and over and over again, but Big Bitty, it keeps coming up. This is why people are fucking miserable, you fucking idiot. Not because they're not getting married and becoming brood mares for the state or whatever the fuck nonsense.
And get a bunch of trinkets and get a bunch of promotions, and they end up at 38 years old with a big flat in London, and they're miserable. And we should tell them to stop freezing their eggs and start finding their partner earlier and have lots of babies.
Yeah, okay, I think I bring two just final points to this. First one.
Stupid. It's because no one's getting fucking paid, you dumbass. Not because they're not having babies and freezing their eggs or whatever the fucking idiotic bullshit. It's nonsense. Kids are fucking expensive, Charlie. But again, this isn't a fucking problem with you because, let's see, where do we put it? Charlie Kirk, you do own a $4.7 million home, and also net worth allegedly $12 million. Wah, 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 wah. Also, tithing to mega churches doesn't help that situation. Meanwhile, pastors live like kings. Yeah, how many fucking, like, Kenneth Copeland private jets does he have that he needs to in order to spread the gospel of God or some shit? Nonsense.
One is just really intuitive, right? Which is that if you actually care about women's happiness, then the solution is to structurally support them. That means universal childcare, shared legally enforceable parental leave, and in Nordic countries where women have high workforce participation, and also some state support, they report higher life satisfaction than in more conservative countries, including America. So if your metric is happiness, so why satisfaction surveys bullshit or not?
Do you acknowledge satisfaction surveys or not? Just told me that they're BS. Do you think they're objective? Do you use that as data?
I don't think that it's the only sole data set, but it's just
Charlie, don't fucking do this. You're the one who initially brought up a satisfaction fucking survey first. And now you're having a fucking problem like this, pointing out a fucking fake double standard? Get the fuck out of here, dude. Complete fucking nonsense.
You tell me there's a flaw in the self-report. Okay, by the macro self-satisfaction data, I'm correct. And you're right. When you have paid family leave...
Buddy, you're the one who brought up those dumbass fucking surveys to begin with. But okay, whatever, dude.
You are happier. I'm actually a proponent of that. At turning point, USA, we pay for 6 months when somebody has a child. I think there's a lot of agreement we can have on that. We need to encourage having more children. I think the Hungarian child policy is phenomenal. We should look at that. Because the greatest thing that is plaguing the West.
Hungarian birth rate has been going down. And they're thinking about opening up to immigration again. Yeah, because, like, the policy is, like, some pseudo-Hitlerian attempt at also fucking having more white fucking children. And guess what? It's not happening because, again, the same problem always is persistent in fucking Hungary. People don't fucking have any money in fucking Hungary. That's the main problem. Meanwhile, Viktor Orban... why don't we take a look at the estate that Viktor Orban lives in? That's a very nice little palace that he has there. I wonder why he has that. I wonder why Victor fucking has that. I wonder why. Orban's Versailles near his home village of Hadvanspusta, or whatever the fuck. Yeah, I wonder why. Kind of like Versailles. I wonder why he wants to have a Versailles-like palace. I wonder why children in, why the birth rates in Hungary are starting to go down. I can think of some reasonings.
Is we're not having enough kids. And it's not just bad because we won't have a future, it's also bad because the present is awfully miserable for too many women as well.
Okay, in which case I think we get...
Do you want to start bringing this to a close, please?
Okay, I think there's one final thing, which is in which case we get to a really interesting argument about what parts of womanhood can be demarcated to the social and what kinds of womanhood can be demarcated to the biological. So, for example, my anatomy is demarcated to the biological. But the fact that I might potentially be a better nurturer than a man, I would demarcate that to the social, you might demarcate that to the biological, in which case we have differing moral scales of value. I would ask why we should necessarily prioritize your moral scale of value, which prioritizes things like the birth rate, when in actual fact there are various other moral scales of value. And if you yourself are a free market American, why is it the case that you would not, like the previous speaker noted, extend personal freedoms towards all spheres, including your private
So I
sphere?
believe in absolute claims, and it's absolutely wrong and bad when a society stops having kids to replace their own population. And then you have to import the third world and you become the third world. It's bad.
I disagree with you.
Great replacement theory. Oh, the little black stick figures are coming to replace the little white ones. Very fucking cool. Yeah, because that's totally what the fuck is happening, Charlie. Again, you want white people to have children? It's the economy, stupid. But again, this motherfucker will never fucking acknowledge any of that because, well, his net worth is allegedly $12 million. And he lives in a $4.7 million estate in Arizona. Whoops. I wonder why. But yeah, it's all about the fucking importing of the third world. That's the main problem for as to why there aren't enough white fucking children in America. Nonsense.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And the final question that we've got time for today is from Sammy McDonald from St. John's College.
Final question.
Good evening, Mr. Kirk. You've obviously devoted a lot of your life to electing, keeping in power Donald Trump, and you did so partly because you said Trump would put Americans first and take them out of foreign conflicts. Should we see how that is going at the moment? Currently, Trump has just accepted a $400 million debt from Qatar, which we're assured is perfectly above board. Billions in arms are going to Saudi Arabia, which they're using to bomb and starve Yemeni children. Not sure how that's in the interest of the United States, but it might be in the interest of the $5.5 billion deal his failed sons are receiving. At the same time, this great president...
I like where this is going already.
To peace has greenlit mass killings not just in Yemen, but in Gaza, where he greenlit an invasion called Operation Gideon's Chariot with the express aim of wiping out the Gazan population. You promised to put America first. Haven't you and your ilk sold America out?
That's a bar right there, dude. It's a line. That's a pretty good point, yeah. Like, hey, Trump. Let's actually, I'm going to add a little bit of additive. The shadow war in Africa, Trump increased drone strikes from Obama, who is highly regarded as the drone striker-in-chief, by 429%. Of course, we could talk about the actions within Syria, the bombing of ISIS and stuff like that. Objectively speaking, I don't have really much of a problem with ISIS getting fucking bombed constantly. But, well, you know, the assassination of Qasem Soleimani, which almost dragged the United States into war with the Iranians. And also, the war in Afghanistan still was happening under Trump's tenure. Doesn't look real great here for the United States in terms of the War Department. Not to mention the air campaign that was happening in Yemen, of course. The stuff that I'm really bad with names. I don't remember names. The operation that's been greenlit by the United States that the Israelis are currently conducting in Gaza, using fucking food and aid as a weapon of war. But yeah, well, you know.
No. Well, I'm glad you have great intellectual substance and can answer. Because it's all the cultural for you, isn't it? The second someone actually tells you what you're doing, which you just read,
Can you calm down a little bit, like, just a little bit? Pounding the table, you're all over the place. No. You want me to go piece by piece, or would you like me to talk slower?
I think you can.
Number one, Donald Trump is convening a peace deal between Russia and Ukraine. Joe Biden gave
well, isn't it?
Can you not interrupt me? I allowed you to talk uninterrupted.
You're famous for not interrupting.
Really? A fucking peace deal between Russia and Ukraine, which Putin keeps not fucking engaging with at all. But he's got something on the table. I'm surprised that he's not using the example of Rwanda and Congo. That would actually be a good example. But those are two African countries, so I don't know. Those are kind of stinky in the eyes of like Charlie Kirk. But you know, nice meme. Yeah, the fucking ceasefire deals that's totally happening in Ukraine, constant attempts at, which Trump keeps getting frustrated with because the Russians are not participating with any of them, Charlie. Uh-oh.
I haven't interrupted a single person here today. Can I speak uninterrupted, actually? He is convening a peace deal between Russia and Ukraine. I believe we will see an end to that war. Number two, he's actually talking to Iran and discouraging Israel to strike the interior of Iran and has stopped many other international countries to do the same. Number three, can you give him credit for ending the Indian-Pakistan war?
Both of them said he didn't do that.
Yeah, India-Pakistan was not brought to an end by Trump. That's just a lie. That was... Boy Meets Mini? Yep. Thank you, Boy Meets Mini. Didn't do shit there. Thank you.
Well, hold on. So let's go back. No, that's Russia, Ukraine. Can I speak now?
Yes, but the Indian-Pakistan thing, you gotta go deeper than that.
Let's go in order.
That was probably more than likely help facilitated by China. I highly doubt the U.S. had anything to fucking do with that. But yeah, sure. It was totally Trump just randomly saying, like, I did it. It was on me. And everyone else was just like, no, you didn't do that at all. What are you talking about? India and Pakistan literally themselves are just like, what are you talking about? You didn't do anything.
Is a peace summit where the main person in question, Russia, doesn't show up. Is that a success, Mr. Kirk?
I'm not even
Oh, that's a really good question, actually. Yeah, because there's been multiple peace summits throughout fucking in Saudi Arabia where the Russians just didn't show up. Because, again, they don't want a fucking ceasefire. They don't want a peace. They have irreconcilable positions with the Ukrainians. Because, again, for Russia, what do they want? They just want to conquer the entirety of the territory. But, Charlie doesn't fucking give a shit about any of that.
Sure. Well, again, these are ongoing negotiations, and it's a lot better than when your Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, went alongside our Secretary of State, Tony Blinken, to Istanbul and unnecessarily blew up a potential Russian peace deal, which has resulted in hundreds of thousands of dead Ukrainians, one of the great unnecessary wars of the modern era. Donald Trump believes in conversation, and police...
Yeah, that's just, broadly speaking, not what happened. But yeah, Boris Johnson... We've debunked this fucking conspiracy theory, but we'll fucking do it again. Sure. Boris Johnson stopping Ukraine peace talks. It's just not true. Diplomacy Watch. Did Boris Johnson help stop a peace deal between in Ukraine? Russia and Ukraine have agreed on a tentative deal to end the war in April, according to a recent piece in Foreign Affairs. Russian and Ukrainian negotiators appear to have tentatively agreed on outlines of a negotiated interim settlement. That's not a fucking ceasefire. That's not a cessation of hostilities, but interim settlements, wrote Fiona Hill and Angela Stent. Russia would withdraw to its position on February 23rd when it controlled part of the Donbass region and all of Crimea, and in exchange, Ukraine would promise not to seek NATO membership and not instead receive security guarantees from a number of countries. The news highlights the impact of former Prime Minister Boris Johnson's efforts to stop negotiations, as journalist Branko Mark Ektik, who noted on Twitter, the decision to scuttle the deal coincided with Johnson's April visit to Kiev, which he reportedly urged Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky to break off talks with Russia for two key reasons. Putin cannot be negotiated, and the West isn't ready for the war to end. The apparent revelation raises some key questions. Why did Western leaders want to stop Kiev from signing a seemingly good deal with Moscow? It wasn't really that good. No one fucking agreed with it, but whatever. Do they consider the conflict a proxy war with Russia? And more importantly, what would it take to get back to a deal? For now, we can only speculate about the answers of the first two questions. The third is perhaps no less challenging, especially given the fact that both Russia and Ukraine, at least publicly, hardened their negotiating positions significantly in recent months, but there are some clues that could help us answer it. One possible path back to a peace deal is to build on July's grain agreement. That's right, again, because this was brokered between Turkey, right? Turkey, the Russians, and the Ukrainians. The Ukrainians were allowed to ship out their grain shipments, out through the fucking Black Sea, through the Dardanelles, which is in Turkey, which is a deal that the Turks, helped sort of help facilitate, in which Kiev and Moscow agreed to restart wheat exports from Ukraine's Black Sea ports. The deal was held strong despite continued hostilities, allowing more than 1 million metric tons of grain to enter the world market so far. This accord shows that each side is at least interested in reducing the global impact of the war. And then a bunch of fucking shit changed, and Zelensky really wanted to have to get the fucking territory back. Crazy. Which is what the Ukrainian people also wanted, because they got unjustly invaded. The other option is more complex, but no less important. Just yesterday, a team of international inspectors arrived at the Russian-held Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, which has been threatened by nearby shelling in recent weeks. The visit, which will allow experts to ensure the plant remains in safe condition, is a result of intensive talks. Because again, during that time in particular, what were the Russians doing? They were using it as an outpost to shell Ukrainian positions and attack the Ukrainians. Meanwhile, they were using the nuclear facility itself as cover to ensure that the Ukrainians can't shoot back because, if they do, they'll cause a nuclear meltdown, and that would be really bad, wouldn't it? Which is illegal. They can't do that. Backed by pressure from the international community. In this case, both Russia and Ukraine are signaling their commitment to avoiding a nuclear catastrophe. In other words, Kiev and Moscow have both shown that they want to mitigate the secondary effects of the conflict, and they're willing to negotiate with the enemy in order to do it. But as long as this war drags on, people around the world will continue to suffer, and the specter of a catastrophic event, whether through an air strike on a power plant or an uncontrolled escalation to nuclear war, will continue to loom. It's time for Russia, Ukraine, and the West to recognize there's only one way to end those risks: lay down arms and come to the negotiating table. See, here's the thing. People always agreed with this position. Again, so far, what this article is ignoring is that the Russians and the Ukrainians have had irreconcilable positions. Even back then, they were willing to make some fucking deals, but the Russians were not willing to give back any of the territory, which was what the fucking Ukrainians were asking for, because again, who got fucking invaded? Or not willing to fucking give like some sort of like semi-autonomous sort of region or like status to the Donetsk or Luhansk regions, which the Ukrainians were also fine with. But the Russians didn't agree with that. They wanted to conquer the territory. In other diplomatic news related to the war in Europe, the European Union is expected to suspend a visa agreement with Russia, which will make it more difficult and more expensive for Russian tourists to become idle, according to Reuters. The decision to comprehend. I'm trying to look for where Boris Johnson is. Is there anything else about fucking Boris Johnson? Yeah, on Thursday, President Emmanuel Macron gave a detailed rundown on his stance. According to AP, Macron argued that Europe must get prepared for a long war in order to put Ukraine in the best possible position for negotiations, which the U.S. didn't agree with. He also defended his decision to keep talking with Putin, arguing that we must do everything to make a negotiated peace possible. So again, is an interim settlement to interim fucking talks where they were starting to talk with one another. They had a bunch of irreconcilable positions, and no, it wasn't Boris Johnson, the main fucking dude, who said like, actually no, you guys can totally win this. No, that's a bunch of fucking nonsense. They had irreconcilable positions, the Ukrainians and the Russians, and that is why the war ended up fucking continuing. But does Charlie Kirk know that? Nope.
through strength. He has been president for well over 120 to 130 days, and he has already ended a war between two nuclear conflicts of India and Pakistan. He has secured our own U.S. southern border while we were being invaded by foreign powers. And thirdly, he is brokering a potential settlement with Iran.
Yeah, man, totally. That's totally fucking happening. The invasion of the fucking southern border by other powers, like who? Is China sending, like, Mexican migrants in order to fucking invade the U.S.? That's nonsense. Silly. More fucking stupid Chi-Com, terrorism, conspiracism, and nonsense from Charlie Kirk, as always. And, like, what the fuck are you talking about in terms... Again, we just looked at the Iran deal. So far, it's a fucking nothing burger. Nothing at all. Not even fucking going anywhere. U.S. proposal in Iran nuclear talks allows some enrichment of uranium. I thought they wanted to have no enrichment of the uranium. Nonsense. It's just basically like nothing is changing because again, the fucking Iranians want to have sanctions relief. And then they will be like, okay, we'll not enrich uranium any further for fucking civilian use. We'll just have it only for civilian use. And the Trump administration's position is like, no, we don't want you to enrich uranium at all. And we also are just going to keep the sanctions on. So, nonsense. Trump insists no enrichment in Iran deal after U.S. said to offer limited nuke activity. So, again, these talks aren't fucking going anywhere. It's not changing. So, nonsense.
That will prevent a major escalation in the Middle East. And finally, it is very difficult, but I believe we'll get it done, that we'll finally see an end to the Russian-Ukrainian war.
I'm just going to disregard the enormous lies you just put out there about Russia and Ukraine. But do you really think leverage negotiations work if you cut off all your leverage and scream at one party in the Oval Office? Don't you think that has just emboldened Russia? Because look at the approach. Putin thinks so much of your glorious president, he can't even be asked to show up. You have elected, or help elect, somebody who is at best an idiot and at worst is deeply corrupt.
Okay, again, so Trump and Putin had a 2-hour phone call today. You'll acknowledge it's a good thing. The pursuit of peace can sometimes be a winding road, and it's a lot better than sending...
Yeah, and it didn't fucking result in anything, because Putin just doesn't want to fucking... Like, we don't know the 100% the fucking details for us of what was going on there, but, again, Trump has said it himself. He feels like he's being strung along by Putin, because he more than likely is being strung along by Putin. Ridiculous.
Hundreds of billions of dollars further into the killing fields of eastern Ukraine, something that tragically both the UK government and the US government has been unnecessarily supporting for a couple of years. President Trump wants to see a brokerage and ending of this settlement. I pray we can get it. It's very complicated because of the mess that Joe Biden left, which was an active kinetic war with a nuclear power sending American-made missiles into the interior of Russia. So President Trump has already ended...
Yeah, and your fucking president also approved a bunch of arms deals to the fucking Ukrainians. Yet, you know, also the Kerch fucking, the 2018 Kerch Strait incident, guess what? That happened under the tenure of your fucking president. And he didn't do anything at all to help de-escalate the fucking situation whatsoever. In fact, he tapped the Ukrainians to try to get dirt on Joe Biden. So, yeah, you know.
A war, he's ended an invasion, he's only 130 days into this, and I believe, we do not know, at this point we're merely speculating, which I think we should not spend our time doing that, because eventually one of us will be right. I believe we'll be right.
We just talked about $100 billion worth of weapons, because you dodged my question on what was going on in the Middle East, where Trump has just signed enormous arms contracts with Saudi Arabia and with Qatar. And I noticed you ignored the fact that this might have had anything to do with the blatant corruption going on through the Trump coin and going on through giving the very competent sons of Donald Trump billions of investment from Saudi Arabia and Qatar. This is something that is directly embroiling Americans into conflict, but is importantly killing many innocent people. Those nations have been known to terrorize innocent civilian populations. So if you're coming to me and you're objecting to America sending weaponry, why are you defending shilling for the Saudis?
Well, hold on. One is sending weaponry, one is purchasing. Secondly, you do know that the biggest purchase that was announced was commercial airliners, 737, $100 billion. We've heard of Qatar Airways. They purchased $100 billion of commercial airways. You are right, there were some weapons contracts. But I guess the question is, would you rather have Saudi Arabia buy weapons from America or China?
I'd rather they not have American weaponry at cut price.
I disagree.
Let's talk about Qatar for a second. Okay, fine. You mentioned Qatar. You've been talking a lot about Hamas and the evils of Hamas. Can I ask you, who's the main funder of Hamas?
Well, the Palestine state, well, the West actually funds Hamas.
Which state?
Well, Iran funds...
No.
Also,
where are the Hamas leaders?
And also Qatar funds Hamas. It is a combination of international organizations.
$400 million jet with the President of the United States.
Hold on, first of all, it was not given to him personally. I understand the...
I mean, it was the Israelis that helped also fund Hamas, right? Because they wanted them as a foil against the PLO and Yasser Arafat, right? During the Oslo talks and the Oslo Accords. Because Israel doesn't want a Palestinian state, and they wanted to sort of like denigrate all Palestinians, generally speaking. So not exactly inaccurate. Yeah, also like Qatar did house a bunch of like leaders of fucking Hamas who got assassinated, I believe, by the Israelis.
The optics of it. But it was not given to him personally. It was given to the U.S. government. And under that standard, no U.S. government should ever receive any gifts from any foreign countries whatsoever. It's not given to him personally, and not a violation of...
Why is he trying to transfer it to his personal library? He is.
Actually, okay, he's sent out lying. This is way too in the weeds. We want to keep on going it. We can. He's
fundamental moral principle.
Okay, so under that fundamental moral principle, then, can you acknowledge, though, that President Trump is getting more done in a less period of time than any president we've seen, while our prior president did not even know...
Bro hasn't fucking done shit in terms of, like, the deals and the wheels and the greasing of the wheels that I'm doing. He hasn't, like, none of them have fucking materialized anyway. Unless you want to talk about his, like, putting on the tariffs, taking off the tariffs, putting on the tariffs, taking off the tariffs, putting on the tariffs, taking off the tariffs as like a great, brilliant negotiating strategy of, as always, sir. It's stupid. It's complete nonsense. Like, he sold a bunch of fucking arms to the Saudis and the Qataris. Otherwise, that's like pretty much the only thing that he's done, to be honest. He's made that deal. I guess.
Know what year he got elected. You understand the contrast.
What about him again? I'm not a defender.
No, I'm not saying President Trump is far better.
You have to defend the person you spend millions on.
I will defend every day of someone who ends an invasion. That's what you do. Brings down the price of oil, who is revitalizing the American economy, who's brokering peace.
I wonder why he brought down the price of oil. Oh, because of his idiotic fucking tariff policy, which made it fucking unstable. Whoopsie! But yeah, totally, dude. Because he didn't end the fucking invasion or end the fucking conflict in fucking India and Pakistan. He didn't do it. He just didn't.
Who stopped the potential nuclear war, who is bringing Iran to the table and bringing Russia to the table, someone who does not want armed conflicts with the greatest powers of our time. I will defend that endlessly.
You are living in a fantasy world of your own creation, so it's quite hard to engage. But let's check on how Trump is doing in terms of diplomacy. Look, with the war in the Middle East, do you think it was a defensible decision to tell the Israelis you wanted Trump Gaza to agree for Israel to invade the Gaza Strip and to continue to murder thousands of innocent children and civilians in a pointless war? Is that in America's interest? Is that in humanity?
Well, first of all, you should know something about Trump. There's something, you realize that Trump over the last 10 years, he is quite the social media user and uses hyperbolic language at times. But let me ask you, in the conflict of Israel versus...
Ah, yeah, dude. It's all because of hyperbole in fucking language and stuff. That Trump decided to make a stupid AI music video about Trump Gaza, #1. Yeah, dude, that's totally hyperbolic. Just nonsense. There's nothing here. Like what are you supposed to debate with? He's just going. That's his argument so far.
Who's the good guy?
I believe both Hamas and the Israeli government are evil, but I think also that there is no justification for the murder and mutilation of thousands of innocent people and children. Like the futile. There is no justification, Mr. Kirk, for invading hospitals, for bombing innocent populations, and dragging out a war which is damaging Israel and the West.
You've made that point, but
what's the point? It's a moral truth.
Well, yeah, again, like, hey, Charlie, you're the one who brought it up about, who's worse, Hamas or Israel? It's just like, that's not the fucking question. Like, who the fuck gives a shit about that? I don't care about who's good or bad. Both organizations are just bad. Who is the one fucking constantly doing triple taps on fucking goddamn refugee camps, hospitals, schools, mosques, World Heritage Sites? Who's constantly killing doctors and fucking aid workers? Oh, it's Israel. We're doing the meme again, you know? Israel bombing aid workers. Whoa! It turns out Israel's really fucking bad, dude. Maybe you can even make the argument that they're the worst ones here.
Okay, yeah. It was also a moral truth that the war started because 1,300 Jews were killed and 200 were taken hostage. When you declare war on Israel, expect a firestorm in reaction. Let me finish, I let you talk. Israel, at its holiest day of the calendar year besides Yom Kippur and Rosh Hashanah, Samat Torah, the 50-year anniversary of the Six-Day War, Hamas invaded Israel, deciding to go recklessly to music concerts, to homes, to kibbutzes, and taking 200 plus hostages. They knew what they were doing. In one of the most...
Hey, Charlie. Who was the main guy who basically backed Hamas into that political position in the fucking goddamn... who backed Hamas in that particular political position? Who did that? Oh, it was the Abrahamic Accords. And those were negotiated primarily by Trump. Ooh, I wonder why Hamas felt desperate enough in order to do an attack like that on October 7th. Oh, it's because Hamas felt like they had no other political out at all, so they were backed into a corner, and they decided to fucking lash out because that was the only option that they had left at the time, Charlie. That was the only thing that they could have done, Charlie, was lash out, and lash out they did. Because guess what? They were being squeezed out politically at the behest of Israel and Benjamin Netanyahu. You know, as he said to Trump. Because Netanyahu just wants to kill the Palestinians. That's it.
Cloistered urban environments on the planet. 2 million people live in a place where it's impossible to wage war. Impossible. Where they wear civilian clothing, they violate every tenet of the Geneva Convention, and the IDF, when they do something right, they get no credit. When they do life-saving surgeries for the guys in trial, they get no credit. When they drive leaflets...
Yeah, dude, totally. I totally believe that the IDF is constantly doing life-saving surgeries of Gazan children when they keep bombing the fuck out of them, dude. Totally, man.
Leaflets, they get no credit. But when they happen to bomb a place where they're operating...
Yeah, dude, dropping fucking leaflets is totally going to be the main sort of thing that's going to be effective in making people fucking move from their homes that they don't want to fucking go from, Charlie. Stupid.
from which we now know from third-party verified sources, hundreds of Hamas military operations are in mosques, schools, and hospitals. I'm sorry, the country where they were living in relative peace on October 6th, that all of a sudden we had a war, and Hamas started the war. And I don't see people that were really upset about the 2 million Germans that were killed in World War II, civilians. A tragic truth of war is that civilians die. I don't like it, and you don't like it. And they brought it upon themselves. The only operation entity to blame.
Yeah, dude, we're doing all the fucking victim blaming bullshit when Hamas, the reason why they did the attack to begin with was, again, because the Abrahamic Accords. They had no other option politically. That's it. They had to do the attack because otherwise they felt like they were being completely and utterly squeezed out.
It's the leadership of Hamas, not the Israeli government, for fighting this defensive war after they were invaded.
I will defend the terrible pogrom that was launched against Jews on that day. But the justification for the death of innocents cannot be an infinite cycle of bloodlust. It cannot be killing tens of thousands of innocent civilians with a war with no end in sight, people who are not complicit in those atrocities. It cannot be bombing hospitals which children use. It cannot be bombing hospitals in which cancer patients are dying and starving in there. The deaths that have been inflicted, nobody knows the true toll, but somewhere between 50 and 100,000 people lie dead under the rubble. And what is left for Gaza except for to continue to suffer under Hamas? Because it turns out Netanyahu's political strategy has not worked. It has entrenched Hamas within the territories. To be a Christian, I would have thought, Mr. Kirk, would never have involved suggesting that the price for an atrocity must be an infinite cycle of bloodlust, that innocent people and the young population must be killed to avenge some kind of providential quest. How can you call yourself a Christian? Well, you just did.
I want to make sure we get our moral clarity straight before we proceed. No one likes what's happening in Gaza. No one with a heart or a soul or a mind likes when kids die. But you must understand who started the conflict so that you can end it correctly. And until Hamas brokers an unconditional surrender, of which they are unwilling to do, they could release the hostages and drop their weapons and their lives would be spared. Instead, they are using children of Gaza as cannon fodder, financed by the Iranian mullahs and dragging the entire world into this conflict. So I don't even know what we're debating at this point, other than I believe that Israel, I believe the facts, Israel was unconditionally attacked on October 7th. They're responding in kind. And I would just ask you a very simple moral question. How should Israel have responded?
Not with the blanket carpet bombing of the city, not with bombing hospitals. Of course, some kind of military operation might be necessary, but not murder on this scale. There is no justification for what is happening with the enormous death toll that is being produced. I really cannot see how you come here and you have a to lecture us on Christian morality, and then sit here and justify the murder of thousands of civilians. Is it working? It's a mass
I've never said that.
You just did.
Well, no,
this is
in war, these are called casualties of a war. Okay? Again, I'm not going to justify every military maneuver of a 100,000 person army. Instead, what I will do is I'll be clear that there is a good guy and there is a bad guy. I honestly
got the morality of a child.
Yeah, dude, because the good guy in this fucking conflict are the fucking dudes who are constantly bombing women, children, refugees. I'm not saying that Hamas is good, but sometimes in politics and in geopolitics specifically, there's a bad guy and there's a guy who is much fucking worse. Silly.
Well, hold on.
And all zero-sum game bullshit.
A child who knows that Israel is the good guy, Hamas is bad, has a lot more wisdom than a student like yourself at Cambridge University.
I will be glad that I will not have been somebody who has defended the genocide of the Palestinian people, and I think you will have to reckon one day that you have reckoned with.
Interesting. I want to ask you this. So can you tell me what African country is currently undergoing a civil war?
Believe it or not, I know about Sudan.
Okay, good. How about what Southeast Asian country has an ethnic cleansing going on? Right? Good. And you have strong opinions on both sides?
Unlike you, I take an effort to be informed about foreign policy and to come to conclusions. You are a culture warrior. I believe when everything is done, Mr. Kirk, people will see you and the people you supported as corrupt.
Yeah, I don't know why this dumbass is bringing up fucking Sudan and Myanmar, right? Like, yeah, there's a civil war in fucking Sudan right now because of, well, a lot of it can be sort of attributed to a lot of Western exploitation and also exploitation by the Russians. Well, you know, tomato, tomato, potato, potato. Yeah. And also Myanmar, which guess what? Is currently in a civil war because of a military junta that took over the country from Aung San Suu Kyi. But, you know, Charlie Kirk is just doing that because he just wants to be a fucking stupid, like, culture war fucking racist.
As selling the country out to the lowest bidder and of doing irreparable damage to a country I'm sure we all deep down love.
The difference
will have to reckon with that.
The difference is when... The difference is when we get our way, we'll still have a country, and your country will be a third world hellhole. Next question.
Cope, weak fucking shit there from Charlie. He got fucking triggered about that one. You know, Charlie, just be upset. You should just be happy with the fact that, you know, you support a fucking genocide and you're just okay with genocide. You literally did you just did like a stupid little racist bit in terms of fucking a little song and dance about Islamophobia just earlier. Bah, well, you know, whatever.
We've got time for today, and Mr. Kirk has another engagement, so we're going to walk out of the chamber. No, I think this is all we've got time for today.
You guys are easy.
Wait, what was that all about? Wait, is he getting triggered?
Okay, we'll take a couple more. Does anyone have any questions?
Who's the best?
Wait, let me at him. Let me at him. Let me at him. Oh, this is the professor then that decided to come up. Okay, cool.
Thank you. very, very short question. Israel versus Hamas. Good guy versus bad guy. Russia versus Ukraine. Who's the good guy and who's the bad guy?
Both are bad, one is worse.
Which way round?
Fucking course. He thinks both are bad, but Israel is good and Hamas is bad. That is incredibly fucking rich. Now, obviously, we can talk about the, the moral fucking quandaries of, like, fucking Azov battalion and, like, Ukrainian fucking Nazis that exist. Hey, guess what? Every military and armed services has a bunch of fucking, like, Nazis in it and other fucking shit, okay? Like, no fucking shit, dumbass. But if we are talking about who is fucking bad versus worse in terms of Israel and Hamas, Hamas is obviously not great, although I've mentioned constantly about the root bases and causes for as to why Hamas did what they did on October 7th, because of a lot of the stuff that Israel is constantly doing in terms of ethnic cleansing. It is fairly fucking obvious who is the much worse deliberator and fucking actor there, okay? But when it comes to the Ukrainians, we could talk about, like, certain people in Ukraine being worse and being bad people. But who's the one who initially fucking did the invasion of Ukraine based off of blood in soil justifications? It was the Russians. And they are clearly just bad. And all the Ukrainians want to do is just defend their fucking sovereign territory, which was agreed to and set upon by the 1991 fucking referendum. Their upholding of their constitution. So, yes, broadly speaking, because I don't give a shit about all this, like, oh, well, what about Asia? All this, like, dumb fuck whataboutisms and bullshit, okay? There's one side that is obviously more good in comparison to one side who is bad in Russia and Ukraine. If we want to do, like, all this, like, dumb fuck morality bullshit. Stupid.
Russia's worse than Ukraine. Okay, so why haven't we pursued that? What do you mean? Well, it seems to me that in the whole of the current US proposition, that Ukraine is being the bad guy.
In what way? We funded Ukraine upwards to $200 billion.
Absolutely.
I just signed a mineral deal with Ukraine, not Russia.
Yeah, but you are expecting Ukraine to give up 20% of its territory to someone who invaded it.
Well, is Crimea part of Russia or Ukraine?
Ukraine.
That's where we don't agree.
Well, I'm afraid that's part of international treaty. That's not up for grabs.
Well, it's interesting. I mean,
hey, 1991 referendum disagrees with you, because guess what? Crimea voted to join with the Ukrainians. 1991 referendum, Ukraine. 54% for Crimea. They voted to join with Ukraine. Cope and seethe, Charlie. Cope and fucking seethe. It is not Russian territory. It became Russian territory when it was fucking annexed by the Russians. But guess what? In 1991, they voted to join with Ukraine. Despite the fact that, of course, through efforts of Gorbachev and Stalin, they sent in a bunch of Russian settlers in order to make sure that they have a sphere of influence within Crimea, because they wanted to keep their naval base at Sevastopol. That's the reason why they did that. But, you know, tomato, tomato, potato, potato. Right, Crimea is still a part of Russia. What do you mean? Nice meme, dude.
even Zelensky has said he's willing to give up Ukraine.
No, America signed the agreement that gave Ukraine Crimea.
Right.
When the Soviet Union ended.
Right. It was done. First of all, it never should have been done. It was largely ceremonial. But however, it was annexed under Obama. Yes, and
it was not largely ceremonial. Dude, they had a fucking referendum for independence. And the Crimeans voted to join with Ukraine. He's just lying.
Mistake, and it should be given back to Russia as a sign of good gesture to end this conflict. Who's currently controlling Crimea? Where was the Russian Navy headquartered in World War II? Where was it? The end of World War II? So this is very.
I'm not doubting that. I'm just saying.
Yeah, dude, like base anti-fascist Charlie Kirk now talking about the Russian, the Red Navy fighting against the Nazis. Wait, I thought that you were okay with those guys. What's going on? That's a little weird.
What has happened that you're now arguing against that flow? And I don't understand it. Because actually, why is Ukraine the bad guy?
No, I said they're bad, they're not the bad guy.
Yeah, well, you said they were both bad, but one's more bad.
Right, yes.
So why is Ukraine bad?
There's a lot wrong with Ukraine. First of all, they're not a democracy. Zelensky refused to hold an election.
Well, no, he can't hold an election.
Oh, wait,
Hey! Hey, Charlie, I wonder why fucking Zelensky isn't holding... God, he's doing all the stupid, hey, 3 IQ, like, Marxist-Leninist pro-Russia bits. Hey, I wonder why Zelensky isn't holding a fucking election. Oh, because he currently doesn't have fucking territorial integrity. And guess what? Gonna be kind of hard to have a free and fair election if a bunch of fucking people living in the eastern parts of the country, of which is of their sovereign fucking territory, gonna be kind of hard to get their votes and properly count them. Especially all the fucking refugees that have left the country. Gonna be pretty fucking hard to hold an election because of that. Also, part of their fucking constitution says, like, well, we're currently in total fucking war. We can't really have an election right now.
Election during the war, because under his constitution, Lincoln held election during the war, but it's not true. You can call an election, you can call a snap election, he's full dictator of the country. No, because he knows that the people of Ukraine would kick him out immediately because he's deeply unpopular. In fact, if he wanted to show a statement to the world, he would call an election.
Whoops, don't want that. Victini. What is it? Zelensky approval rating. What's his current approval rating? Well, apparently it's risen 10 percentage points ever since his White House staff. 4% approval, as Trump claims. While the U.S. and Russia label Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky as illegitimate and unpopular, opinion polls shown he's recently has seen a bump in popularity. Yeah, approval of 4%. Totally, dude. In November 2024, his approval rating hovered 53%, going up slightly earlier in 2025 to 57%. Wah, 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 wah. Yeah, dude, he's deeply unpopular. But, you know, gotta go with the Trump, the good... Good fucking suck.
And win by 80% and say, see, I'm super popular. So that's number one. I have a problem with that. I have a problem with a person being propped up as a government we're sending $200 billion to that refuses to even face his voters.
I can't agree with you, frankly, on that at all. Constitutionally, Ukraine is not able to hold an election because it's under military law at the moment, and that's just a matter of fact.
Yeah, that's a pretty good point. Yeah, they're just under martial law because they're at war. Whoa! Crazy.
Prime Minister or President, he can do whatever he wants.
He can't sign an executive order and change the Constitution. Neither can the American president either, so hopefully there's no doubt.
He could even do a ceremonial election to see where he actually stands with the people.
We call those opinion polls.
So, currently he's popular. Pretty popular. 57%. Pretty popular. I can't say the same about Trump. What's Trump approval's rating? Donald Trump approval rating rises to 2-month high at 44%. Still underwater there, Charlie.
Yes, and they're very negative. But you would agree that a person that holds on to power without the election of the sovereign is pretty questionable.
No, not in those circumstances.
Okay, then we disagree.
No, okay, that's fine. But give me another reason why
they are the most corrupt country in Europe and never even met the most remote standards of doing NATO. Do not know where a lot of this money is going.
I don't disagree that there is a problem with corruption, but the most corrupt country...
It's been fucking cracked down upon significantly, but, you know...
Europe, you sure about that?
I'd have to double or triple think about that, but they're very corrupt.
Okay, so that's a little bit down. It's not absolutely... corruption. I mean, let's face it, we are talking about comparison with some of the states you're doing business with in the Gulf.
Well, of course, but we're not giving them money, they're giving us money. That's the difference, right? Saudi Arabia...
it's fine.
Well, hold on a second.
Morally acceptable. Take money from corrupt people.
Well, hold on. First of all, as far as morally acceptable, you do what's best for the benefit of the country. And so, for example, we were allied with Russia during the Second World War, and I'm glad we were. And I would ask you, how much money is too much money to send to Ukraine? We're at $200 billion right now.
I don't think you have to send any more money to Ukraine. I think you have to agree to support them as a free country, and perhaps to sell them weapons. I'm very happy to sell weapons to less free countries. And I think Europe will pick up the slack, as we all do. And I don't disagree with some of the comments about Europe not looking after its own security. I just don't get this approach, which was supposedly to end the war quickly, which now seems to be elongating it, and in doing so, throwing up a smokescreen of very variable facts, if they are facts at all, about how things occurred, which actually isn't helping things. And if people can't see that Putin is stalling,
I agree with you. I think he might be stalling.
And therefore, and I think even your president has acknowledged the fact that he thinks he might be
stalling. I wonder why he might be stalling. Oh, because he thinks he has strategic initiative, and he wants to conquer as much territory as possible to use his leverage in negotiations. Crazy.
Still correct. So we don't have a disagreement there. No, we have a disagreement about the efficacy of tactics. And we don't know. And I'm willing to say we could be wrong.
No. Oh, well, of course you could be wrong in life. I mean, we could all be wrong. But actually bringing that war to an end, consistently, actually isn't going very well. And I would just suggest to you that whatever tactics have been used are perhaps not the best. And they are certainly inconsistent with what's going on in the Middle East and how America has been treating parties in the Middle East. But I've had enough of your time.
That's a fair contention. Thank you very much indeed.
Well, Charlie Kirk lied the whole time about every fucking fact about Ukraine. So that's cool. Just completely agreeing with the fucking, with the Russian side. Anything else? I think we're done here. Leonard Leo. Oh, God. Jesus Christ. That fucking moron. Well, don't think there's really much else to say here. I think we're pretty much done. Lovely. All right. Charlie Kirk. I don't know. he either just lied or he barely understands what he's fucking talking about most of the time. Like, he's definitely really lost the fucking sauce in terms of the fucking debate sort of sphere. But, you know, shit like that, when like people are just, they have a pretty good idea for as to like what they are talking about. Charlie Kirk can never really fucking contend with those people, like, at all. Like, the stuff with like Russia, Ukraine, Israel, Palestine, completely lied. The whole stuff with like the feminism part, like, he was just like totally and completely wrong. Never really addressing any of the economic arguments, and it makes you think why. And again, for everything else in terms of all the other like stupid culture war talking point bullshit that fucking Charlie Kirk loves to engage with in all the time, what is it all about for him ultimately? Maintenance of hierarchy and control when it comes to abortion, women's rights, religion. That is the most important thing for Charlie Kirk in particular. Maintenance of hierarchy and control. Never ever fucking forget that. When it comes to like these dumbasses, all these stupid fucking conservatives, all they have ever considered, all they ever fucking think about constantly is how they can be the ones on top. Because again, Charlie Kirk, he's totally okay with doing all the bidding of the billionaires who pay him, because he himself is a millionaire who's allegedly worth $12 million. So, you know, Charlie Kirk is totally fine being a little fucking stooge for whatever fracking billionaires want to give him fucking money. Like, there's really not much else to say about that besides like Charlie Kirk and his activism is purely just non-grassroots. It's all astroturf fucking bullshit, and a lot of the shit that he fucking believes in has very often completely zero basis in reality.